Oh my God! It's episode 38 of Hotline League. I know. We got through the 37 episodes of the show, all to make it to this one. This one right here. It's gonna be a spicy one. You know why? We're gonna be talking about TSM, and that's all you guys ever really want to talk about. TSM, 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 TSM. That's what I hear you say. That's what I hear you say. That's what we're talking about in the show tonight. Plus C9, they're rising up. Things are going well. There's some other stuff too. You guys are gonna dictate it really because you're calling in. So all that and more coming up right now.
Hotline League is brought to you by Omen by HP.
All right, we're back on the show tonight, Monday, the 30th of July. Joined right now by two lovely people. We got Mark Zimmerman, my constant co-host. How's it going, Mark?
Hello, great, awesome. Love to be here. Love doing this show. Nothing else I'd rather be doing right now.
You know, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound genuine.
So I'm just really bad at faking enthusiasm, but it is there. Or like I guess I'm bad
So
at
wait, that
expressing
makes
my,
Yeah.
expressing
when
my
you say
enthusiasm.
faking enthusiasm.
Too honest right there, Mark.
Yeah.
Shit, did I let that one out?
How's the desk? How's everything going? Are you kind of in the doldrums right now? There's nothing too exciting happening at the on the LCS analyst desk. You guys have settled in.
No, I mean like every week we're usually doing some different things. So like we got like this more like relaxed discussion-y look for when we want to have more of like less of like a here, let me tell you about this thing, and more of like a let's discuss. We have like some couch chair, like really high armchairs. We have a cool piece of software called Libro. If you've seen any of our segments that have like shit like popping up or getting circled or like moved around and stuff, you know.
What does that mean?
Have you not seen any of the like the segments where like a champion will like grow extra big to highlight him, or like we did one where we like removed a turret off the map, and then like because the turret had like 1 HP and they were fighting like the turret was still there, so we're like, you can't do that when the turret only has 1 HP.
Oh,
so like
I see.
this is how they should have like we have like a lot of.
Is that when you guys put Azael into the game?
No.
Oh.
I would have said that if that's what I meant, Travis.
Watching a lot of the analyst test, Travis. Seems like.
We're also joined right now by Kelby May. Kelby May, what is that shirt that you're wearing?
It's the shirt of my former employer, which means to say that I'm no longer at Twitch. That's right. I am now a full-time Total War Warhammer 2 streamer, which is to say that I am full of time. I'm playing a lot of Total War Warhammer 2 and watching a lot of different streamers.
So you're fired.
No, I left the company. But
if he had been fired, wouldn't that have been kind of like a shitty way to bring it up, Mark?
Yeah,
he's trying to dodge. If he had been fired, he's trying to make a joke about how like he's just playing video games now.
Yeah.
And
Kelby's got thicker skin than that. He'd be fine.
yeah, I have enough Amazon stock to make me okay with that joke.
oh boy, oh boy. So Kelby, you're not talking about what you're doing next.
Not quite yet.
Okay.
Soon. It's not like some giant secret. It's.
Then why is it a little secret?
A lot of people do know already. It's just that I haven't spoken internally about like how this is being messaged, or
and you don't think that
Hotline League
is the platform they would choose? Because I'm pretty sure it's the platform they would choose for the Triumph.
I mean, I will probably talk about it on Hotline League before anywhere else, because I'm not gonna like do some like tweet or whatever.
Yeah, you think they'll do
That's just lame.
Are they gonna do like a press release or something?
I don't think so.
So then, really, I mean, what is the better platform then? This is the one place.
No, I'm saying I will talk about it on here first. I'm not gonna like do some tweet or something like, oh, I left Twitch and I'm excited for my next new project. Because I love when people do that. They're like, just like, oh, give me attention, tell me how good I am in the industry. I don't care, but it's cool. I'm excited.
Twitch
was cool.
Twitch chat thinks you're joining TSM.
Oh my God! It all makes sense. Björk tweeted that something was going to change or something at the end of the.
I have been playing a lot of jungle in solo queue, you know.
Well, they said you're going to be the mid laner, so I'm kind of here.
Didn't you know Reddit? Based off Reddit, Björk's the problem, so you got to go and replace it. Yeah.
Ugh. I feel more confident in replacing Mike Young or Greg than Björk personally.
You mean from your own skill set, or from like if you were making the decision?
From my own, well, like one position you have to like lane it against another person. The other person you just hit creeps, and you sometimes like show up as a surprise, and then it's easy. And I just Bjerg tells me where to go ward.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
do that. Like he just walks me around the map, and I'm just a little bot, and you hit your skill shots, and you're fine. But whereas the mid lane's hard. I'm glad that Reddit thinks that Bjerg's the problem though.
All
They
right.
always have the right answers. I tend to find. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Reddit, yes, they've been instrumental in teaching me how to be an interviewer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what else. Anything else going on that you can talk about?
Yeah. I've been playing a lot of Total War Warhammer 2.
You weren't playing Total War Warhammer 2 this past weekend, Kelby. I
played it last night. You weren't on when I was on playing. Were you, Travis?
It's the
What
right
were you
place to
doing
air
instead?
these grievances. Is this really where we're?
It's more interesting than what's going on
Kelby
with
was gone
FlyQuest.
all weekend
Well,
watching
we're
his
talking about one of the
girlfriend.
number one teams in North America, Kelby.
No, they're not. Number one? Are they number one?
They're tied. I
Okay,
believe.
here's a better
They're
question,
not
Kelby.
tied for
Maybe they're
first.
number 3.
Here's a better question.
No.
How did
Do you watch LCS, Mark?
Hello?
There's
That's
two 8
a
and
question
4s.
I have for you.
8 and
Hello?
4, and then what are they?
Sorry,
7 and
sorry,
5.
Travis. What were you saying?
Kelby, what was your wife doing this weekend?
My wife was getting wasted up in that. So one of our good friends is getting married, or one of her good friends is getting married. She's in the wedding, so like they did like some girls trip up, which essentially is code for the husbands are coming along, but the women all plan it. And what it turns into is like the women all get wasted doing wine testings, and the guys babysit, and like they got a limo and they're drinking in the limo, and of course the women are controlling the music playlist, all completely wasted, all singing shit at the top of their lungs. I'm just sitting there like sober as a fucking I don't know, just like staring out the window like
Thinking about Total War Warhammer 2?
yeah, just like what led me to this point in time. And
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like I'm earning so many brownie points. Like there's so much shit I'm not gonna have to do because I did this. Like you can do it. You can power through. And then like we go out. They come back. They're all completely crashed out by 7 o'clock. Just passed out. All the dudes are there just hanging out. Like okay. So and then we ended up talking about like I don't know boring. Dude stuff.
Are you actually
like
friends with
investment accounts? What?
Are you actually friends with these other dudes, or is it like friends of friends, basically?
Friends of friends.
Yikes.
Yeah, they were like cool guys. One of the guys is like a former gaming addict, so that was nice. And I was
Addict?
trying to get him. Yeah, like he apparently has a very addictive personality. So I was like trying to get him back into video games. You know what I mean? I was like, dude. He was like, so if I couldn't own a PC, because I'd get too obsessed with it, like where do I go? Like a LAN cafe or whatever? And I was like, man, come on. You just got to come back in hardcore. Don't be a little bitch. What's more important in your life? Your wife's attention, happiness, your employment, or playing a bunch of video games. I know what I've chosen, like
And this is
hop
great.
on board, dude.
It's great because if your, persuasion worked,
Yeah.
your wife will never want you to meet any of her friends ever again. And
That's
then you'll
true.
just never go on these trips. So that was a great move.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Just get yourself blacklisted from these trips, and then you're good.
Yeah.
All right. All right.
To the show.
To the show. All right. So what's been going on? I guess TSM's been losing, which I think is finally becoming a big conversation.
There's a 4-way tie at quote unquote 6th, but that goes all the way down to 9th.
Yeah.
And 2 of those teams have 3-game losing streaks to get there in CLG and TSM.
Isn't CLG on a 4-game losing streak?
Maybe it's 4 now.
think
TSM
they're
is
4.
TSM's 1-5 in their last 6.
Yeah.
So Mark, how do
Yeah.
I know more about recent results than you do? I'm just curious.
I'm still on like Saturday prep.
I'm just
Like,
kidding.
I
I'm
like-
making jokes.
I learn all these numbers for the show on Sunday, and I'm like, yeah, they're
It's like you haven't had your next week's Saturday prep, so you don't know last Sunday's
well,
stuff.
it's technically Sunday prep, I guess. Like we all meet after Saturday, and we all like
Yeah.
have a big meeting about what
Yeah,
we're going to
yeah,
talk
so
about
you're-
Sunday.
you're on
all
Sunday
the numbers
prep.
in my head haven't been updated yet.
Yeah, okay.
Dude, Team Snickers in 3rd place though. That's and Optic.
Yep.
Or Optic's in 5th.
Yep.
Optic's one
Somebody
game
yelled
behind.
at me on Twitter because I said TSM falling, C9 rising, and and one of the viewers, one of the passionate viewers, who I really appreciate because he's a 9-month sub, was like, "What about Optic? They've been waiting.
I saw that tweet.
Why are you talking about C9 instead of Optic?" I'm like, "Well, because who's talking about Optic?" All right.
Hey.
I'm talking about Optic.
Let's.
Reddit's talking about Optic. You see Dokla have 2 front page interviews this weekend or something?
I didn't.
Got 2 up there.
Well,
I think.
Did you not interview Dokala?
No,
Travis?
I took Sunday
The
off.
greatest carry player in North America?
So what people don't know this, and I'll say it now, even though I'm worried about when this video is going to come out because Brendan is particular. But I went behind the scenes with Team Liquid on Sunday. So instead of doing interviews on Sunday, I got to do basically like a ride along and film the whole experience of hanging out with them. So
you got to dick ride double lift some more for your content?
Jesus Christ. Didn't I see you backstage, Mark?
I don't remember. Maybe we walked past each other.
Yeah. You just
When I'm in the
you did
zone,
one of
Travis,
these.
I don't notice anything.
Yeah. TSM.
He's focused.
CLG 303. Blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Optic's like 2 and 6 still.
Have they won 4 in a row?
Yeah.
Damn.
They never had a 2-0 weekend in their history. Like, they didn't have any in spring, and then they had their first one last weekend, and their second one this week.
How much in trouble would North America be from like a brand perspective if we sent FlyQuest, Optic, and Golden Guardians to Worlds?
Wait, how would we send? We're not going to send those 3. That's like.
I mean,
I got what you're saying.
Like everyone is so neck and neck, and like all these games feel like coin flips that like if that for some reason translated into a best of 5, and we sent these 3 teams.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think they probably turn off the North American broadcast at that point in time. They just make it all EU casters. And
I don't know, dude. I think NA fans would be pumped because then they'd be like, "Good thing TSM's not there to disappoint us again."
yeah. Good thing we've got other teams to disappoint us.
Yeah. Has any team not disappointed you guys?
Yeah.
From North America.
Yeah.
Wait,
Mark, Hunter's in the
can
chat right now setting sad faces about me making fun of Golden Guardians. Hunter should feel happy he should feel happy we were at a point in time in North American LCS history where we are speculating on the idea that Golden Guardians can make it to Worlds.
Yeah, if you go from the end of last split to now, this is massive improvement.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
What were you gonna say, Kelby?
I was gonna I was gonna quiz you on whether or not you could name all of the Optic starters, but I'm sure that you can. Because I was thinking to myself, can I name all the Optic starters?
Yeah, there's like Lemon Nation down there and Zig.
Mark's on spring split prep for Optic. You know, those numbers haven't. That roster hasn't been updated in his mind.
I've been watching a lot of Fortnite recently, guys. What could I?
Oh dear.
Who's your favorite Fortnite streamer?
I'm kidding. I actually am watching.
Oh, okay.
Fortnite.
Never mind.
But Ninja.
Yeah,
right,
that's the easy one. You just throw that baby out there. All right, so and we're having a lot of fun, but I think some interesting topics for the show to kind of prep some of the callers. I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about TSM because up until now, I think it was easy to sort of say like, well, TSM, you know, they're all taking trades. They're like certain points in time, they rise, they fall. Now they are 3 games behind first place, which is pretty significant when you have only a couple more weeks left. And it doesn't look like they're improving. Conversely, I think Cloud9 is in an interesting situation where like they are actually kind of starting to show up with the roster change and like could they make a run at it? I think it'd be fun, by the way. It'd be fun. I'm gonna throw this out there, and whoever can conceptualize it this the right way, Mark will pull, I'm sure. Talk about the League of Legends MMO that Mark Merrill said might happen, or asked about, and then said never mind. It was just a joke, but I think it's an interesting conversation. I think we should talk about it.
If we're gonna have that conversation, please have more to say than that thing that like got uploaded to the front page on Sunday. I think it was when it was like, just imagine an MMO League of Legends edition, and then they literally said nothing about gameplay mechanics or anything. They're like, can you just imagine being a Noxian assassin with Shurima armor and doing a quest? Can you imagine that? And it's like, no, that's not a game.
Anyway,
I tilted the shit in my head. Had like 800 upvotes.
we got That's the Reddit thread that makes you angry. Out of all the potential Reddit threads, that's the one.
No, there's a lot that do, but that one also
Yeah.
made me angry.
I don't know. So there's that. I really don't want to talk about this Echo Fox Academy thing, but maybe Mark wants to handle it. I don't know.
I mean, I'm down to talk about it, but just like,
I don't know.
I don't even know what's going on.
There's
there.
the TSM raise, which is interesting. I don't know how much there's to talk about that, but that's a thing that happened. And then Smoothie to Echo Fox. I think that actually got announced right after we.
yeah, we missed that.
Yeah.
We missed all the Echo Fox changes with like Lost coming up and
Yeah. Yep.
them kicking like half their team. There's also the Apollo Hakuho Lyra benchings for Piggy. Piggy's back in the LCS.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
a lot of roster stuff last week that
We haven't
happened.
seen Piglet in a long time.
Chaotic Blizzard wants to know Kelby's opinion on Total War Runeterra. The Runeterra is the world that League of Legends takes place in, Kelby, so it would be like a League of Legends Total War. I know you're not really up to date on the
League lore?
Yeah.
Terminology? I was thinking RuneScape for some reason.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, Mark, you want to explain a little bit about how this works?
Yes, I would love to. So, for anyone who has not seen how this show works, I'll be spamming the Twitch chat right now with the Discord link. You're going to want to join up in Discord. And when you get there, there are going to be 2 channels you're going to need to join. There's going to be an audio channel called Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2. Join either of those. And then you can mute yourself once you're in there. And then in the Pleb Topics text channel, you're going to want to post your takes. So ideally, we're looking for your opinion on something, not just a question, and try and be a little bit specific. So if you're like, I think TSM is doomed, try and say why. If you think TSM's fine, say why. If you think an MMO would be sick, say why. More than just like, I think an MMO would be sick. So I actually know what you're going to say when you get on.
But Mark, can you imagine being a Noxian assassin though?
Can you
just imagine being a Noxian assassin? Think about it.
What's the game? Like, how do I play? Is it...
So, like, you think about Talon.
You take contracts.
Think about Talon, and that's you.
Yeah.
No, but you don't get to play as any of the heroes.
Yeah. But you're kind of like that character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once you're level like 350, then you're essentially as strong as a hero.
Anyways, after I like
No
your
level
topic,
cap.
I'll pull you into the waiting room. You'll hang out until it's your turn. Then we'll do a quick mic check, make sure you're good to go, and then we'll pull you into the call.
And if you are a sub, first off, thank you. We're climbing back up the sub ladder after falling for a little bit. So thank you for your support. You can hover over the screen and it'll tell you if your Amazon Prime sub is up. But being a sub does help you get into that sub chat where you can put your questions. It moves a little slower, so it doesn't really guarantee you the ability to get in, but it does give you a little bit of a better chance. So it's kind of our thank you to the subs of the show, also just supporting it. So Mark is pulling people right now.
Going real slow right now.
It's going slow. You guys apparently don't have any.
No, like there's a lot of topics. I'm just reading really slow.
Yeah.
I should drink my Red Bull.
He's slacking. How you doing, Kelby?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. Very good. Did
How
you
are you
intentionally
doing,
wear a
Travis?
Twitch shirt on the day that you would be announcing
No.
that you're not at Twitch anymore, or was it just coincidental that you put on? It's
No,
kind of
I like this shirt. I like this shirt. It's a good shirt.
Yeah.
So.
I just realized some people typing in this thing are not actually in the voice channels.
Yeah, you have to be in the voice channel, guys. Otherwise, we can't pull you.
How's your campaign going right now, Travis?
I had a rough start to my vampire
Damn,
campaign.
there's like no one in the voice channels. I can't pull anyone.
Because apparently you need to
When did you start it?
you need to do it very specifically. I think I started it Saturday night, and then I started to get my feet more underneath me. Actually, so Fanron said I had to go like turn 2 or turn 3 take Drakenhof.
Yeah.
And I struggled with that for a while because I played Isabella, of course, instead of Vlad. So it took
I
me a
mean,
while
I
to
think
do
it's the exact same for Isabella as it is for Vlad, essentially.
but that all the armies are very different than any of the armies I've fought before because everything else has been like some soldiers and then some archers.
Right.
And that's not the case here, so it's taking a little bit to get used to it.
Yeah.
Mark is pulling our first person right now.
They're pretty cool with all their monsters and shit, though.
Did you
They're
see
fun.
Fenron got donated $1,250 by one person.
What's his name?
It's like
Was it his usual top D?
Shit wizard.
Oh, shit. Damn.
Yeah, exactly.
Did he donate
So
for him to
he
do Star
closed.
Sync
It
or
was
something?
now he can go to TwitchCon. It's like the full amount he needed to be able to make it to TwitchCon. So,
Damn, dude.
So all
Yo,
last
Shit
night,
Wizard's a fucking boss.
all last night he was playing the Goblin Lord that he hates, and he was getting.
We got
actually super
Poro
tilted.
Satan on, dude.
Hello, Poro
The
Satan.
return.
Poro Satan, what do you think about Total War Warhammer 2?
Not too much about it. Not really my type of game.
All right, next caller.
Yeah, you're not
Thanks
our
for
type of
being
caller.
on, Poro Satan.
Poro Satan,
Hold on.
remind me where you're calling from.
It's New York.
Oh, you cut in a little bit. Where are you
Sounded
from?
So disappointed when he said it.
Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse, New York. Are you in the car right now?
I am not.
Okay.
I don't know why it sounds so weird.
Yeah, it sounds
What are
like
your
you're on
thoughts
the road.
on Carmelo Anthony?
Well,
He played
I
for
went.
Syracuse.
Yeah, I went to that college. I feel like I can only say positive. I mean, he gave like almost $1 billion to my school. So
Did he really? Holy
Yeah.
shit. What a god, dude.
Okay. What do you want to talk about on the show tonight, Poro Satan?
Well, first I want to refresh everyone. Poro Satan was the guy who initially called in. I don't know if people saw on Reddit. There's like the repost of
I saw
his call where he
that was
predicted
Poro
that,
Satan.
yeah, that TSM would not make either finals and wouldn't make worlds.
Yeah.
And you look like an idiot now.
Poro Satan, thanks for doing that. You got me what's called like a second round on YouTube where you post a video and then it gets a second wind. You know, it's really nice of you to
awesome.
give me this extra
happy
views.
to help.
Yes. So go ahead and give your take. I just wanted to remind people in case, because you don't even go on Reddit, so you didn't know that had like 500, 600 upvotes and was on the front
Yeah,
page
I
for a
didn't.
while.
That's really interesting to know, though.
Yeah. So what do you what do you got for us?
So I'm really shocked that people are so surprised that TSM can fail this season, because they're just basing this idea that TSM is always going to do well, when I think you can easily argue that last season it was Biofrost and Doublelift that kept the team solid. I'm in no way saying that Bjergsen isn't good, but if you only keep 2 people and then you pull in people from Europe, it's not going to end well.
I mean, there was a period of time where Hanser was pretty hard carrying TSM. I don't think it was by the time they got to Worlds, but Hanser helped them have a pretty good run there for a while. Mark, I mean, am I wrong in this?
Well, I think the Doublelift point is not necessarily wrong, but it doesn't tell the whole story, because there was a split that he took off, and
Yeah,
TSM
he was gone for half last year.
Yeah, and they still won the split, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's. I agree that like he's a very big factor, and that makes a lot of sense. But it wasn't like that team was Doublelift's team.
In fact, he was on a different team that split for the last part of it, and they still made it. So even having Doublelift on a different team, on the team he's on right now, they were able to make it to finals.
That is true, but I feel like NA is always on a different meta than everyone else. Like, funnel strat is happening a ton in Europe. Don't really see it in NA. And then when Sven and Mithy came over, Perks is not Bjergsen. And to just assume that someone that is a star in one region is going to come here and do well doesn't always pan out. You had for a while, when Huni first came over, he wasn't really doing that well in NA, especially right after Immortals went away. That's not saying Huni's a bad player. He wasn't really fitting in NA.
But what does this have to do with the meta?
Wait, when did Huni not fit in NA?
Back like right after Immortals went away, because
He was in Korea.
I thought
He did. He
wasn't there
fit.
a
So he
period-
fit. He
Didn't
did
fit
not
in
fit
NA
in
then?
Korea. Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
fitting,
I guess you're technically
Yeah, but-
right.
But wasn't there a period when he came back over with Echo Fox when they weren't winning right away?
No, they were 8-1 the
as
first.
soon
no,
as
they
Huni
were
showed
8-1.
up.
Yeah, they.
This
Right.
split,
Big.
arguably the past couple of weeks, is the first time Huni's ever looked bad since he went to Fnatic in Europe forever ago. Like he's always looked.
Well,
really good.
let me put it this way. Why would you guys say that TSM is doing poorly this season?
Well, so I didn't rewatch the segment that made it back on the front page.
But
I just read some of the comments.
I read much like every Redditor.
Yeah, I
Mark
didn't
and I
watch the
saw
video.
a controversial video, admittedly one that we were even in, and we didn't look at it. We don't
No,
know
well-
anything about it. We just read the comments, and Reddit disagreed with you still, poor Osane.
Well, so that's what I was about to say is like I'm not gonna say I remember what I said either because I remember based off like the Reddit comments jog my memory. You were saying that like like part of the thing was you just didn't even think the people they were getting were that good, and that was where a lot of people took issue because apparently you said Sven is worse than Sneaky and Stixay, which I don't want to go into that argument again. But either way, I'm curious if I ever made the argument that like I somewhat agreed
Well,
or.
So part of what it was is, again, just how I tried what I was bringing up with how I think Huni plays different than anyone else top lane in NA. NA ADCs love to be super hyper aggressive in a way you don't see in Europe, and I didn't think that that play style would work here. But I also preface this with NA's weird super aggressive play style that always screws them over in World.
Yeah, so to that point, I think it's not like NA's bot lanes are all super aggro. Like Smoothie and Sneaky sometimes were, but Sneaky also has like a long history of not being super aggro. Same with Alltech, even though he's gone now, but he's been on a lot of top 4 placing teams. There are some that can make it work, but I think the big thing is you need to combo it with someone who will be the aggressor if it's not going to be your bot lane. So like Cody Sun was not a super aggressive bot lane. His numbers were like pretty low for forward percentage and stuff like that. But you need to have aggression somewhere on the map. And I think to your point, that's something that with that TSM roster, everyone was saying, well, Mike Young's going to bring the aggression. Mike Young's going to bring the aggression because it's not going to be Bjergsen and it's not going to be Sven and Nithy because back on G2, that was Perks who was the aggressor. And then Mike Young doesn't work out. And now you have no aggression on your team to like lead your playmaking in the early game. And I think that's the problem we're seeing now that I think you somewhat correctly were talking about.
Well, also,
Poor Saint, really
that-
quickly, just to get back to your initial take, which was you didn't understand why people thought this team was going to do well. I still stand I think that TSM failing this year is one of the most interesting things about this year because on paper they should have done well. You've got Bjergsen, you've got this historic. Mike Young was like the biggest question mark, and admittedly, like ended up being the question mark, which is I think where if I were you, I'd be hinging my argument is like, oh, they've got this untested rookie, like it's more competitive, but like this was still a rookie that had shown promise. Hanser had always looked good, and then what you import is the best in the West, right? People literally called them that. If they were or if they weren't, at least it was an interesting debate. And they have far more experience, and they were on teams that did incredibly well. And Mithy supposedly had all this insight and all this stuff. He brings it here. It should be an award-winning formula. Now, again and again, we've seen super teams fail, and I think TSM could be considered like an attempt at a super team. But it is surprising that they have failed, and I think is one of the reasons why it's probably hard for them to figure out how to fix it.
What my guess would be, because I was actually a big G2 fan, but I was always under the impression that one, Perks is the aggressive one starting stuff, but he was also the main shot caller. And it's not saying that Sven is bad, but I almost think of him as like an attack dog that isn't told where to go when. Like he's used to having a very good shot caller backing him, and I don't think Bjergsen was set to do that.
I've always heard that it was Mithy that was the person.
Well, that's one of the big things that they at least who knows how much they really did this, but publicly they sold the fact that the reason they were getting this bot lane was actually more for the Mithy half of it because they wanted an aggressive shot calling support. And the reason they brought Sven with him was because that dual lane has existed for so long together. And so, if they thought it made more sense, they might have done double lift Mithy, but then they wanted to just bring the whole bot lane over. And so that's kind of how they sold it in the PR statements was like he was going to be a big vocal point was Mithy was supposed to be.
Well, I also do want to preference because this is something that I couldn't see coming, and this meta is super weird. And I was actually one of the people defending Cloud9 when they did all these roster changes, partly because we're seeing a meta where Faker is even wanting to bench himself. That is a factor that we have to admit, because I'm not saying that like FlyQuest and Optic are horrible, but some of the games it looks like there were just some flukes going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's maybe for a little bit it was that way where it's like, oh man, that was kind of a fluky way for TSM to lose. But I think it's like those kind of have like a cumulative effect that like after getting fluked on a couple times, you really start to like feel bad about yourselves. And that's what I think, you saw, I think it was Cody's son's interview potentially mentioning that, whereas he said like it kind of feels like they're all losing faith in each other. We're like they had a slow start to spring and then they thought they were figuring it out. And then they also kind of had confidence, and then they lost in spring playoffs and kind of like, oh shit, and then they swapped their jungler, and then things are still not going right. And I think it's over the course of the year tailed down to where there is a legitimate problem beyond like we need synergy and stuff.
Kelby, do you want to close us out on this topic?
You guys have done a super excellent job.
Really? That's it? That's all we get from you?
I mean, what else do you want me to contribute here?
Anything. Poro Satan, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate it.
Happy to be on.
Congrats on being right before. Although I think it's questionable.
Give us your hottest hot take to see if you'll be right 2 for 2.
Yeah. Next number 2.
Golden Guardians to Worlds. What is it?
I'm trying to figure out how much faith I want to put in them. I think Cloud9 will get at least third this split.
So they'll get at least third, and then they'll be in the gauntlet having to prove themselves, right?
Mm-hmm. I think they could go to Worlds. I have faith in Blabber, but I don't know. I'm also really confused what happened to Svenskeren. I thought he was good. I don't know what's going on.
This is the softest take ever.
No,
they could be good, maybe.
Okay. Let me put it this way. If they stop pulling people out and swapping stuff around, they probably could be one of the top teams. I think they will hit that third place spot, but I also question what's going on there. But I place them like above a lot of other teams.
Okay, still the softest take ever.
I'll say that's not that soft. It's just soft in comparison to your first take.
I mean, they could get third. Is not no. That's not a take.
Okay, still get third.
They'll get third. I think they can do better than third, but
okay.
Thank
you so much for your call. Thank you so much for your lukewarm take. Congrats on being right before. I will see you on a future episode.
All right.
All right, moving on to our next caller.
Alrighty.
Couple of shoutouts. We got. Where were we at? King Shady Lamp, Shadows, Mexi Bearju, Puny House, Frost Slasher reset for 3 months. Travis, you're the best. And I found out how NA could make it to Worlds out of Worlds groups and how Summer Split made me have this idea. Rico Suave 86193 reset for 7 months. Hey, hope everyone's going well. Just a quick question. That's not a quick question. Platypus's Zero Noiru Wild Armed FTY Zhao Blaze Zarkonos and Real Foxy 1 donated $5 and says, congrats to Kelby on joining the Chainsmokers to make them great again. Wow, he leaked your new project.
I'm back. What happened?
Dangoose, what do you got to talk to us about on the show today? And first off, where are you from?
I'm from Houston.
Houston. Okay, thanks for calling in from Houston. What do you want to talk about?
I'm here to talk about the MMO topic.
The MMO topic. Okay. What do you think?
My basic take is I think it's gonna massively fail. Riot Game haven't shown that they can innovate within the same genre, so I think that tackling something like an MMO, which have remained stagnant for the past however long year, I fail to see why anybody placing faith in Riot Game being able to pull it off.
So you think there's no way Riot could make an interesting MMO?
No, because first of all, even if you talk about lore, their lore is a shit show. It's been retconned like 3 times.
I would have agreed with you maybe 2 weeks ago, but they've been rolling out the like crazy.
Yeah, but they do that. They do this
recently.
They do a burst
whole world out of it though.
Yeah, they do a burst of lore, and then they will go quiet. I actually agree with the caller on the lore thing. They do a burst of lore, get everyone excited. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, look at this! They're telling stories." It's all fleshed out, and then 9 months later they'll be like, never mind. Actually,
We have
Miss
a-
Fortune is
we
a
have a
fighter
map.
pilot.
We have a map now. Okay.
We've had
Yeah,
maps
but
so many times before. There used to
can
be a
you
map
build
in
a
the
game out of
client.
each location in that map though? Like, do they have enough story to even build like a third of that map?
So can I share my thoughts on this one?
Yeah.
So I think as far as actually Riot's ability to innovate or improve on an existing genre, League of Legends is a very good testament to how they are able to do so, because they took Dota and they changed it and they made it the most popular MOBA game in the world. However, I do think that Riot undertaking an MMO would be a massive disaster because on the technology development and platform side, they suck. And that shit is real important for MMOs.
I think I can
Incredibly
agree on
important.
that point there. I think my point is more on that rather than the gameplay aspect. I agree the gameplay is like massively improved from the original Dota, but from client side,
I mean, it's
in terms of event,
subjective opinion there.
in terms of like how Dota running their event, having like extra game mode, anything like that, I think Valve is doing a better job at that. And I think an important part of the MMO is also having regularly released content and new content.
Yeah, but they're good about that.
They are really good about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
I just don't think it would run well. I think that they would do a terrible job optimizing it, bugs
Well,
all over
so-
the place.
So
the
there's two ways to look at
technology
it. One, Riot surmounted technological challenges that nobody ever had to face before because it was the first game that was ever this huge. And
Yeah.
so like they've given multiple presentations at like Hadoop conferences and big data conferences and all this stuff on like how they built out their ISP, all the crazy things they had to do. So I do think in certain areas of technology they've done really well. In terms of and like other areas where they've tried to develop like client-side experiences and all that stuff, it is not good. Like Clash is only the
Yeah,
most
that was-
recent example.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like I have no doubt that they could set up a server and have it be great. And I don't even think like the lore would be that bad. Like they would obviously need to do a lot more with it. But like I think a lot of like generic fantasy lore stuff is actually like not that complicated, and for the most part, it's about like giving people a fun world that they get engaged in, and then they get attached to the stories, even though they're mostly like tropey, largely. But I think the Clash problem and like how many projects get canceled at Riot and like all those kind of things that happen would be like the reason the MMO would suck or never see the light of day. Is like it's such a large undertaking anyways, and like it feels like whenever Riot tries to do something like that, it just doesn't, it just flops.
So
Can I
if
also
they,
throw a second point out there?
Sure.
Yes.
You guys thought? So since Riot is under Tencent, would you guys be okay with Tencent creating an MMO with the League IP?
Well, Tencent doesn't really. I don't think Tencent just owns a ton of game developers. They don't really develop them
so like,
themselves. But you think like should Tencent take the League of Legends IP and give it to somebody else?
yes.
I think I wouldn't say yes unless I knew who that other company was, because like
Yeah.
mostly I think a lot of the companies that Tencent owns, they have stakes in like a lot of the Western publishers, but they don't really like. I don't want them to give League to Blizzard. That would be weird. And I don't think like Epic Games or PUBG or somebody like.
Well, I think the bigger concern would be like if they do make it themselves, it becomes a very like Chinese experience where there's like a ton of pay to win type stuff and like all those kind of concerns. Like I don't really like the Korean MMO experience. I used to play Lineage 2 a lot and like how crazy ass grindy those games are. And from what I know about Chinese MMOs, like I just don't think I would enjoy those. But if it does well for their own market, which is by far the largest, like it's hard to say no.
Yeah. So I don't know. Here. What's funny is I think we all seem to agree that it would fail. Here's my reason why it would fail. I think one, it's just super hard to make an MMO. Anybody. So I listened to the podcast this past weekend that Reckful did with Mark Merrill. And in between Reckful's strange laughter, Mark Merrill said something about how he thinks that it would take like $500 million to do it right. Because the amount of like innovation, like because WoW is so far ahead of everybody else, and or the amount of like investment you would need to make to like create a better experience than what they've done, because they've got all this like legacy, and all like the process and all the stuff, that it would just be such an enormous undertaking that like it would be insane to pull off, and the risk is so high there. And so I think that's what it is that like I just don't know if the world is ready for another MMO. I think the next big MMO will have to be something that takes place that is so different from anything that we've seen to date, like something that transcends all different platforms, or something that's VR, or something that is, like something that involves you as a person in real life. Like I think it's got to be something wildly different. So we all agree they can't happen, but it's fun to think about.
What do you think the odds are that Game 2 is actually an MMO? It's
0%.
probably really low, right?
Because after hearing what Mark said on the podcast, and also Mark, like they released a they kind of recanted. They stepped back and they were like, oh yeah, he was just asking a question, as the Mark Merrill standard is, and so I think there's just 0% chance. Like these guys need to release just something else at this point.
The last thing
get
they
something
released
out
that
the
was
door.
a game was like that Cho'Gath Eats the World game.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get something else out first.
Yeah, get like a real, show me you can do like a Hearthstone or a mobile game or something that is, and then get ready for
Make me a goddamn League of Legends gacha game for mobile.
What's a gacha game? League of Legends gacha.
Summoners War, Fire Emblem Heroes, Fate Grand Order.
Did you know for a while they pulled it eventually? I don't know why, but they had a League of Legends tower defense game on when they first launched. Somebody there just made like a little League of Legends tower defense game, and it used to be on the iOS store, and it's been long gone, and everyone's forgotten about it. But it was a game that you could play and download. Done by Riot Games. Hey, thank you, Dangoon, so much for the call.
All right, thank you.
Mark, we need to.
Thanks, dude.
We need to take a break for a second.
We need to get one more caller in.
No.
We need to get one more.
We have contractual obligations to fulfill that we won't fulfill if we don't get another caller in. It's time to talk to you guys about something. You've heard me do the song and dance before, but I've got something different for you on this episode. Because I've long teased that I've been working on something behind the scenes with Owen by HP. And now I can tell you that coming out on August 1st, in 2 days, there'll be the debut of a show called GG Well Played, or Good Game Well Played. It is a show that features, it's like a deep dive into a single competitor. The first episode is about Biofrost, and I have a trailer to show you. I need Mark and Kelby to not talk while I show you this trailer, because they won't be able to hear it.
You don't want a live reaction?
You guys won't be able to hear it because the way Skype... I can barely get Skype to do what it did 3 weeks ago, let alone me routing you guys audio. But...
I can watch it off the stream and just be reacting 20 seconds behind.
Okay, do that. Here we go.
I wasn't really thinking about like the possibility of becoming a pro player. I had this whole like plan like mapped out, and well, obviously it's changed. Yeah, it's changed. I had no affinity for the game. I'm a competitive person, so I wanted to beat my friends. So I played the game a lot more.
What do you think you're communicating when you're walking down here right now?
I'm screaming, I'm flanking. This could be possibly the game-winning teamfight.
Were any of those problems with you?
The system that we had wasn't necessarily working. It's scary to think like any moment could be the last time that you're gonna be up there.
So there you go. There's the trailer. Yeah, I think they really tried to... One of the goals for the show... Oh, I should leave that up. One of the goals for the show was to create something that was like I'd seen like big production, really cool deep dives into teams or documentaries or stories. This is all about a single individual and just helping Biofrost sort of tell his story. So it's a long interview that I do with him, and then there are moments where we step aside and like Amin from Mobilix does like deep dives with him into. I keep saying deep dives. Does sort of a look at his gameplay with him. We have sort of like some more fun elements, so just some side conversations, and it's all kind of with this one big interview through it. So I really hope that it does well. When you guys see it, if you go on Reddit and talk about it, again, it'll be out August 1st. You can retweet it. All that stuff is really helpful because I think there's nothing, to me, I can't think of a show that's been done like this around like a single individual with this much love and passion poured into it. So look, it's the first episode. I'm not saying this thing's going to be absolutely life-changing, but I think it's really cool. I think it's neat. I'm glad they did it, and it was cool enough they helped me. I got to pick I got to help pick the first person, and I think Biofrost is a great example of this because people don't know his story too well. It's kind of a new rookie. So either way, coming out on August 1st, stay tuned for that, and go check out the Omen by HP YouTube channel, which I will drop into chat right now. You can go ahead and subscribe to it, and then you'll see that that's where it'll be dropping. So it'll be there, not my YouTube channel, but if you are watching the VOD right now, you can click the link over and check it out. Moving on to...
I have a question.
Yeah.
What was up with some of the letters being all squishy?
The letters being squishy?
Squished out, like flattened. Like there's an E that was really long.
I don't know. I don't see what you're referencing. I'll have to talk to you about it later because I don't.
Okay.
Great plug, Mark.
Yeah.
I waited till it was over before I asked that question. Yeah, I'll get the next guy.
All right.
We need to talk to Mark about not getting up and leaving during your sponsor plugs as well.
I don't mind him doing that because they're
really.
I handle the plug.
Yeah. I just feel like
a lot of my content is based off of a network called like the Twit Podcast Network, run by Leo Laporte, and he actually like his guests can go do other things or whatever when he's doing the plug because they're not like Owned by HP sponsors the show. They sponsor me. They don't necessarily sponsor Mark, so I think it's okay. Well, everyone is.
So you're saying Mark's replaceable?
Everyone's replaceable, Kelby.
Here you go. He's in here.
Campione 7th is here. He's a Twitch sub. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Okay. Campione 7th. Wait, what?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you were gonna say something.
Now, because I have the thing linked up also, so it kind of echoes.
Oh.
I'll lower it down.
Okay. Thank you for being a Twitch sub. Really appreciate it. Is that it's like an anime meme as your icon on Discord. Where are you calling from?
What? You don't know Satima? That's how you
Well,
pronounce his name, right?
Yeah.
That would actually be really
Saitama.
Yeah, Saitama. Okay, I'm from Oxnard, California.
Oxnard, California. Okay, so not too far. What do you want to talk about on the show?
How can NA get out of Worlds groups and how the summer split made me think of it?
Sorry, can you elaborate a little bit more?
Basically, how when I thought of this question, I was thinking more of IMT 2016, where how Adrian's like bottom group of champions were different than most of the world. So when they faced like all NA teams, they smashed them up. But
I see. So you're saying teams IMT was an innovative team, and thus maybe other NA teams that are trying to kind of get out of the slog or the mess or the mire that is the standings right now of NALCS, they should be looking to innovate more.
Yeah, because when CLG went to MSI, they took his pull and they kind of smashed them. Basically, Aframu with Stixay, both being a great bot lane duo, managed to wipe them, kind of get like good standings, and then also with Aframu's own iteration of his pull, managed to also help him go above and beyond. Everyone played well in that team. Smithy, his great dragon like play with Kindred, Darshan top lane, Huhi innovation, and having his pull being kind of good, having the Aurelian Soul that no one played. All of it made it so that way they could get high in the standings. But with the innovation, which IMT did, helped them kind of have the edge, because mostly in that meta, most of all the other worlds was not playing ranged supports, which I reviewed it a little bit to back it up. And once that kind of happened, most of them kind of expanded their pool, bring out some other stuff, and kind of did it.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I mean, that was the
go ahead, Mark.
that was the big story with CLG. Was in group stage they played a lot of range supports that no one was familiar with, and then Aurelion Sol as well, giving them a lot of they played with more priority than any other team at that tournament was playing with, and it gave them a big advantage.
So, Mark, we've talked about this a little bit in that we, especially at the beginning of the split, were disappointed in North America, and that Rift Rivals kind of highlighted a lack of innovation from North America. I don't want to say the word Heimerdinger because I say it so many times, but...
Did you guys know Deathly had Heisendong give him Lins?
Anyway, so we had this conversation about all this in some sense, but... Do you think that right now North America should start trying to really push itself and try different champions, different roles, really mess around a bit?
So there was a really interesting desk interview we did with JJ, where he was on the analyst desk helping break down a game, and one of the things he talked about how was one of the things he thinks made the bottom teams from last split high in the standings right now in this split was that none of the top teams scrimmed them. All the top teams mostly scrim each other. So TL is playing Echo Fox and 100 Thieves for the most part and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely hinted at that. He said TSM is elitist with their scrims.
Right, which a lot of teams in each region only want to scrim the best teams. But
Sure.
What they were saying was Golden Guardians, Optic, FlyQuest, all kind of developed their own meta that they had a read on compared to the top teams. And they think that they had a better read on the meta than the top teams who were less prone to innovating. And so that resulted in kind of what you see in the standings now, where a lot of those teams are actually doing better than the, some of the top teams historically. So I think it's a pretty interesting idea about needing to innovate. It's just, you can't just innovate for innovation's sake and just be look at this wacky pick I found. It needs to also make sense. And I
Sure.
think that's
but if
the
you're the
hard
bottom
part.
teams, you can't get access to the top, you can start looking at what they're doing and start trying to kind of break them by pulling out different picks and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I think it's also partially, I don't want to say luck, but someone has a good idea and they just start doing it, and
Yeah.
it's once that gets exposed, the Heimerdinger thing was and I know you don't want to talk about it, but in Europe, Hjarnan played it. And
Yeah.
Hjarnan was showed that whole region, look how fucking broken this is. And then NA, once they saw it in Europe, should have tried it more than they did, but they didn't want to, aside for Deathly. And then when Rift Rivals happened, then they kind of jammed it down our throats and we had to respect it. And even now, there's really only Deathly still playing it. So I think it can be hard to find that innovative pick, but once you see something that seems really strong, you should probably try it.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying oh, that only works for them.
Kelby, thoughts?
Yeah, and I think too, it's not just necessarily about one or two picks, but finding the combination of meta picks that really, really work for your team and getting honed in on them. I think in all games we see the same sort of scenario where teams just feel super comfortable with what they're playing, and to a certain degree, you have to, if you're just always trying to copy what you think is best and you don't really have your own take on things, then I don't think you're ever going to be fully comfortable in what you're doing, because really you're just trying to imitate somebody else instead of you doing your own comfort play or on your read on what's good. And it's not just in League, we see it all the time in other games as well.
Yeah.
That said, you still have to branch out sometimes, because this weekend TSM played their most comfort shit ever, even though it's not very strong in the meta, where they had Gnar, Syndra, Ezreal, Braum, and those are all okay. Some of them are pretty good, but they just went super comfort and they still lost, and it's all right.
Yeah. Well, I
You
mean,
gotta
it's
find
still like I
something new.
said, comfort meta picks.
Yeah.
Infernal says Heimer is largely ignored and has a 0 win rate in LCK.
They haven't been dicked by it yet. I swear to God, like they're just they're not like these gods of like I don't know how to put it, like maturity or anything that like people think they are necessarily. So like they see like I don't even know if they know it's worked in Europe. Maybe they saw it and they're like, all right, we tried it, but none of them are good at Heimer. Like the same reason like it happened in NA, where like a bunch of people in NA tried it, but they didn't like really learn it
Korean
correctly.
coaches are gonna fly Heisendong out for
But that's what I'm saying is like if they didn't put that effort in, they're not going to respect the same way they didn't respect NA at 2016 Rift Rivals when it's like what the fuck are they doing with range supports? That's so dumb. And then they get dicked on by range supports and they then they pick it up. You know, like they like a lot of Korean strategies are stolen from China or stolen from other places. Like even the Ziggs bottom thing was actually started by Shifter and then like Korea did pick that one up. But like they're not I don't think Korea is inherently a more innovative region or anything like that.
What if, Mark, we've always thought that our one tricks have been holding us back? What if our one tricks are a resource we should leverage? The moment some zany pick shows up, we get the one trick to just coach everybody in the NALCS on it, and then we're just all ready for Worlds because we've got like the experts. We've got these people training one tricking in solo queue, learning exactly how to do it. People like Heisendong, we're gonna figure it out. Mark.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's like there's a lot of champions in the game, so you're not going to be like, hey, all 111 best champion mains, I will interview each and every single one of you, and you will talk to me about AP Trinomir, which has done all right in solo queue. And like, you know, like you can do that. I just think you'll never learn all the champions. So I think people should adapt more, like innovate a little bit more than they currently do. A lot of these teams, especially at the start, were not doing enough. But I don't think you can just be like, innovate more.
Yeah.
There you go. And then like that's the outcome you want, but that's not how you get there, right?
Campion 7th, thank you so much for your call.
No problem. Thank you. You guys said everything I wanted to say about it.
Nice. Have a good one, man.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
All right. Catching up on some hookups from people. Zafar subbed Meddling Kids, resubbed for 5 months. Regix subbed for 2 months, sponsored by Regix for a second month is what they wrote. Crunchy Koala and Tip subbed. T Alexa 79 sent $15. People don't donate anymore, so thank you. Hey Travis, was just wondering if you're going to have an event in the Bay Area when finals comes. Looking forward to your future content. Also shout out to Rob Berteau. I probably not, but I'll be there. And then T Alexa 79 also subbed. Braxton subbed. Dagami, my friend, donated 169 bits. There we go. Davidson, prolific Hotline League caller Davidson.
Kelby's favorite.
He's on
Kelby's
like
favorite.
every single episode I'm on.
Wait, what? I haven't been
Yeah.
on here for like several months.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Neither
but
have I.
We've had some
Yeah,
guests.
Kelby,
so-
I came back for you, bro.
I appreciate it, man.
Davidson, what time is it in Sweden right now?
10 past 6.
You are in Sweden, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 10 past 6. Okay. And again, do you stay up for the show, or like why are you up at 10 past 6?
So I've had really bad rhythms in my sleeping schedule.
Okay.
So I've just been up
Nice.
this night.
Well, what do you got for us tonight?
I want to give you my take on why the ADC nerfs and meta changes hurts the Western teams more and will ultimately set us further back on the international stage.
Go for it.
When you say Western, you mean NA and EU?
And then EU, yeah.
Okay.
So NA and EU have always chased after Korea in macro. I think everyone here would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wait, I'm sorry, lost my thread.
No, you're
Okay.
fine.
It's early in the morning there, so I understand.
Been awake for 30 hours.
You're talking
Yeah.
about ADC nerfs impacting Western teams.
Yeah, so Korea have a lot higher individual skill cap, and they don't have the inconsistencies that EU and NL players, or especially NL players, have. And you can see that in just watching what NNEU teams are playing. They're still playing the ADCs that are in meta, quote unquote. But in LCK, you see that when mages are up, they usually take it when the meta mages are up in the bot lane, and that just gives them a much higher level of gameplay. And especially in NA, you can see that this shift in the meta, where it just became chaos everywhere, led to the downfall of macro also, and just nerfs to like towers being easier to just rush through base. We have seen 3 rushes of bases in LCS, I think just this week.
Yeah, the base races.
Yeah. And I just see this like overlying thread that the Western teams will just have it much rougher than the Korean or Chinese teams will have.
I mean, we always have it much rougher than the Korean and Chinese teams. That seems to be a common thread. But
Yeah, but I think we have caught up a lot to the Korean teams in the recent like just year in macro plays. But I think this fucked us up so badly that we just set us back like until season 4 or something again, where we had like no fucking chance.
I kind of agree, kind of disagree. I think at least for EU might be all right. Like they have some, I think, good teams. But for NA, I think we don't have like the fact that we don't have any like standout teams is kind of like sad. I think like as much as parity is cool and like everyone's around the same skill level and who knows who's gonna win, I also think like you should have dominant teams, and those are the teams that will like best represent you. And it's not clear, that's not a good sign. Stuff like that. So part of that is the meta's fault, but I would still say that I would rather go into Worlds with a little bit of a more open and broken down meta than a very well structured one, because to your point, I think like the Korean teams are much better about preparation and things like that, and just like how structured they are, how on the same page they are, and like the best way to beat them, I would hope, would be to break down their ability to be comfortable. And like you saw that with like the Leona pick, and going back to the 2016 Rift Rivals thing again with range supports and the Aurelion Soul stuff. Like, I think, if they're not ready for Heimerdinger, and like I know they're aware EU's playing it, but if they haven't really scrimmed against like the Heimerdinger fiddle and like they're not ready for it, like, I think those are going to be the kinds of things that would allow a Western team to outperform a Korean or Chinese team. So, excuse me, 2016 MSI to chat, brain fart. But yeah, I would say like I agree that the meta has made NA domestically worse and lowers their chances because everyone just like looks bad right now. But I would still rather head into Worlds with a shaken up meta than like an ardent sensor meta.
Yeah, I agree. I can't speak too specifically to sort of the more in-depth part of Davidson's question, since my analysis is lackluster at best when it comes to that level of gameplay in the league. But I don't know. Part of me feels like every year we come in, we feel a little bit more cockier, we feel a little bit more swaggy. We got some top tier teams that cleared out everybody. Everything was good. We're like, oh, this is it. TSM fucked up last year, but they got it this year. And then, I do my interviews. Faker says, I've never encountered a team like TSM before in all my time scrimming. They will win Worlds. And then they just fall apart. So I am hopeful that somehow the opposite happens this year, where everything looks like a disaster. And then somehow, and everybody writes off North America, and then we do well. Because that's what allowed us to do well at 2016 MSI, was everybody wrote off CLG. Stixay did this interview. Are you attacking the cat? What's going on? All right, whatever. We lost Mark. And then CLG did really well. So I don't know. That's my hope. What happened, Mark?
Did you not hear my cat meow like
No.
1 inch away from the microphone?
No, I didn't hear that.
Oh, I didn't know if he like jumped up on the bed right next to it and
I just like
started
meowed into
meowing.
the microphone. I wish that had happened.
Yeah, I didn't know if it got picked up, so I was
Oh.
like, I just gotta throw it out of the room.
That's impressive. Mark versus the cat
But
is the
don't
best
you
part.
think that an open up meta just lead to chaotic games? And do you really enjoy watching chaotic games?
Within reason, like I don't like watching like how 100 Thieves lost because I was like that was just stupid. But like I actually thought the FlyQuest TSM one was a situation that broke down from like at the end of the day good play. So like we were talking to JJ after the game and he's talking about like, oh man, I should have been Tom Kenching to side lanes faster, and then we realized it in game, and then we pulled that play off, and we had double Mountain Drake, and we were like pushing faster, and like, you know, you saw Sven understand it, but then TSM weren't all on the same page, and then like it was good by Santorin and Keen to like cancel all the recalls. Like, I think depending on how chaotic we're talking, I think it's all right. But if it's just like pure stupidity, like I'd say, like I liked ANX's level of chaos, where like they did a lot of like they did brand support, and I think they did Elise support, and they did like a lot of dumb shit that just put people off guard. And like I think that's an acceptable level of chaos versus like some of the stuff we're just seeing in NA right now.
But I just think this meta right now is at that stage where the chaos is just out of control.
Yeah, potentially. I'm very curious to see what happens. Davidson, I think we do have to move on, unfortunately, but I want to appreciate your thank you so much for calling in. It's always a pleasure.
Sorry for rambling. I'm like for 30 hours.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, see ya.
All right, we got Boba Cola gifted a sub to OPTSM fan. Thank you, Boba Cola, as always, for your support. Sir Malefact subbed. E.G. Huck subbed. E.G. Huck, you know E.G. Huck, Kelby?
I do know E.G. Huck.
Well, he subbed.
Was it a real sub or a gifted sub?
No, he actually sent his prime in.
Oh, wow.
And then
You got his prime, dude. That's some special.
Not a regular sub. His best sub. His prime sub.
Yeah, if only I had more prime subs. Finally, Killing You Guy gifted a sub to Mind Games Weldon. Speaking of Weldon, he's joining us right now. Weldon, where in the world are you?
I am in a gym in Finland.
In a gym in Finland. Are you getting strange looks from other people in the gym in Finland as you speak English into a phone?
No, it's like 7 a.m. There's nobody here.
Okay.
I think I'm actually the only person in the gym.
Are you working out while talking to us?
Well, I paused now.
Okay.
But
well, you
I
can
was
keep
doing
going
yoga,
if you want.
hoping that it would improve the drafting of TSM. You know?
Okay.
I just want to hear your call through like bench reps.
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
squats,
I think that. Either way.
All right. Well, I'm at the squat rack, so here we go.
All right. Well, Weldon is on the show. Thank you for calling in, Weldon. It's I'm excited to hear what you got to talk to us about. I'm guessing it's TSM.
Lurker.
I'm guessing it's TSM related because there are a few people in the world that love talking about TSM more than Weldon.
It's C9 related.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. Here we go. What you got for us?
I think that like the move that Reaper made was really gutsy, and I think that the fact that they were able to like continue moving stuff around despite the they put out one PR piece, right, and then after that they just went radio silent, and they just kind of like kept experimenting, and now they're winning again, and I think that
they're winning. They brought back Sneaky,
right, which is fine. I don't have anything against Sneaky or Jensen. I think that they're great players, and I think that the more important thing here is that they took like a LCK style approach of just like, hey, let's try benching everybody. Let's try this. The most important tool of traditional sports is the bench, and the most important mindset for using it is you have to be willing to lose games in the short term to win in the long term in order to use the bench properly. And esport teams are afraid to do this because players have so much power, and that's fine. Like I think players should have a lot of power. I think maybe in North America they have too little power, which might lead to some of the problems we have compared to EU. But I think the fact that that this team was willing to kind of like use the bench in a way a traditional sport team or an LCK team might do bodes well for their future and maybe the future of academy teams in NA if more people, if more stabs can, do this kind of mix and match with high profile players. On the other hand, I think that it seems pretty important in esport, more so than in regular sport, to have like personalities on your team, because what you're really selling is, the viewership. It doesn't seem like winning matters as much as having a team that's fun to follow to sell. Yeah.
I think that would have been an interesting thing. Like if, let's say C9 never makes the moves and they just like tank to 8th and they stay at 8th. Like, I wonder what because I think they took a massive perception of fan hit when they did all that stuff. Like their subreddit was raging at them or whatever. Like, I wonder what would have happened if they hadn't done the changes and they're in 8th, and at the end of the season, which has better fan connection / morale afterwards.
Yeah, I feel like there's no way to predict that without seeing it, because we've seen cases of teams do super well and fail at the top, like Immortals. They crushed the season, then they choked out of both playoffs, and people loved them kind of anyway. And then you have TSM that will crush the season and fail at the top. Historically, not this season obviously, and people hate them for that. I don't know, are there historically weak teams that maintain fan base because of their personalities that were winning before?
Yeah.
I don't know.
My era of CLG.
Oh yeah,
That's
CLG is
true,
a perfect example of that.
But I'm just thinking, Weldon, about your reference to benches being so important to, well, not so important, the most important thing to traditional sports teams and how they're able, just because I can't imagine that the LeBron Jameses and the Kevin Durants are in the position they are because of the bench, right? They are able to and Jaedong and Flash, even though they're individual players, or even Faker, I don't think they're necessarily motivated or the tool that they have because of the bench. Those guys have enough internal drive that it just doesn't stop for them. But I think certainly in the case of esports, we see periods of times where you have these players that are incredibly motivated, and then they get to that point as a result, but then maybe you have a sneaky Jensen Smoothie scenario, if we're to believe the communication that we've received from Cloud9, and it takes a trip to the bench to get them fired up again. I'm curious though if you think that that's something that is a long-term fix, or just a short-term motivator, but then if a pro player starts to really lull into that kind of state where they need the bench to be motivated, is that a signal of kind of future attitudes for the rest of their career, or?
So there's kind of two ways to look at this. One is so to answer the question directly, yes, it's a short-term motivator, because motivation is an emotion that goes in cycles. It comes high and then it comes low.
Yeah.
And so you kind of think of the bench as a way of helping out a friend who happens to be in a low motivation cycle, without firing them. I think that's kind of a healthier way to look at it. And you use it as a temporary boost when it's needed. And some people have longer cycles. If you're a rookie and you've got something to prove, you might go for a year or two with high motivation, and then you just have a lull. So I think that kind of regular use is normal. But I also think that that's a tier 1 level. I think that most usage of, you were talking about LeBron James, right? I don't think he would ever be benched now. But I think the bench is what you use when you're forming an athlete, at the amateur level, the semi-professional level.
Yeah.
And so it could be that it was used at particular times throughout his history to kind of craft him into the amazing player that he was.
Yeah.
We don't really have that so much in esport, but I think we also don't have set team cultures. Alluding to something a caller was saying earlier about, sorry, you were saying this about how a team should kind of all in on their culture for the comp that they're playing as a better way to win. I think that there's not a lot of coaches that say this is our team's philosophy and this is our team's culture, and we'll use the bench, even if you're high motivated, even if you're good, we'll use the bench as a way to craft the culture. If you do something super too high ego or too anti-cultural, we're willing to, the Minnesota Vikings, trade out Randy Moss for a subpar wide receiver just because he didn't fit the culture of the Vikings.
And to that point about like the LeBron James and stuff, it's like some of those guys are so successful in who they are because they don't rely on the bench as motivation or something like that. And like I think you could argue someone like Bjergsen is that way, where it's like, yeah, you don't ever need to threaten him with the bench because that dude is so good at like being so self-motivated himself about improvement, and then like it's the other people around you that need that extra motivation potentially, and that can help keep them in line.
I'm just curious if teams that are filled out with rosters like that actually are going to be winning teams, or if you need a team that is largely.
I think diversity's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's why so many super teams fail. It's because you have a bunch of people like Bjergsen and Faker, and then maybe it just doesn't work out.
The Golden State Warriors, for example.
Okay, fair count.
But there have been a decent number of super teams, especially in esports, that have failed.
Well, I think one of my biggest challenges was the double lift Bjergsen team. Like, I think that they had really clear-cut ways they wanted to navigate, and they were both super alpha and super motivated.
Right.
And merging that into a single unified team culture was kind of like the solution.
I want to take a couple steps back because I do think that there will be some people that listen to this call and say, well, wait, the Cloud9 thing didn't work. They were losing, and now look, Sneaky and Jensen, my favorite players, are back, and they benched that Sven Skaren guy who was the problem all along, and it sucks that Smoothie's gone. But like they people will say like, oh, they just kept losing until these guys came back. They should have just had them on the roster all along. What would you say to people like that who sort of dispute the idea that the bench even helped?
I mean, it's a fair argument. I wouldn't argue against it. I would say that I think it's more important that they have the guts to make the decision in the first place, and that's what the move revealed to me.
Okay.
Because that means in the future they can do it again.
And I think it might be a bit of a chicken or the egg thing where it's like you don't know that Jensen Sneaky would have been winning without Sven there.
Look at Jensen's solo queue when he was on the academy team. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah,
the amount of games he was pumping out compared to just like literally 7 days before.
I would be super curious to hear from you, Travis, in an interview with these players at the end of the split, once some time has passed, not immediately after.
I mean, I've requested Sneaky. There's a reason I haven't done an interview with Cloud9 since this. It's because I request Sneaky every time and get denied every time.
Well, I'm just saying I would be interested to see it because I'd like to know if they felt like it was a big change for them or not. I know in the time they were memeing, but maybe they had some critical reflection or time on academy, and it did amp things up for them. I don't know. Well, or maybe they feel like they were just the same the whole time.
As soon as I can get the Sneaky interview, I will hopefully let you know. No, I mean, it's an interesting take, and it's funny, Weldon, because your take is the same as the one that I had whenever it first happened. I think Cloud9 fucked up a lot of the PR around it by having that video get released and all that stuff, but and of course nobody likes a losing team, but I do think that it's important to be able to bench players, even popular players, in the NALCS, and I think it's one of the things that the abolition of relegation has brought, and I think it's good. I teased you about making it about TSM, but I'm very curious. Do you think that there is a world where TSM should have been willing to expand out their roster more and experiment with more players, because they've pretty much stuck with everybody? It's even in a world where they communicated the Mike Young thing the way a lot of teams communicate the departure of a player. How many times have we heard, oh, it's a 6-man roster, and then you just never see this person ever again? They go away forever. But what do you think that TSM should have learned something from the C9 situation and been willing to make more risks there?
Yeah, I think it's probably even more important in a best of one season to be able to do that, and to swap and experiment more. I think that maybe if C9 and Echo Fox are successful with redeeming their seasons after the swaps, we'll see teams consider their academy rosters more carefully next split, put together options. I think you're kind of limited to your academy versus like it's really hard to find high quality free agents in the off season.
Yeah.
So I think it matters. It's kind of a question it needed to be answered back in December, November, during recruitment. Because I don't really know much about TSM Academy or how good it would be to experiment with them compared to the C9 Academy. I mean, I guess I only knew about C9 when I watched them on the LCS stage, but
I mean, they were pretty different. Like TSM Academy has always been like a little bit of a letdown. They have what should be good players based off names, but they just don't work as a unit.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. Whereas C9 Academy, they were one of the clear-cut top 3 teams in Academy and Smash.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Hey, Weldon, thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it. Anything you want to shout out, plug, or anything at the end here?
Thanks for the show. Keep it up.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Well,
Enjoy
thanks,
the
dude.
rest of your workout. I hope you enter your Zen state and you can...
Oh, yeah, everybody. That's my plug. Go work out.
Yeah.
Nighttime workouts are great. If you're EU early morning, crush it.
Nice.
Have a good run.
Thanks, Weldon. Have a good one.
You too.
Hey, that was a great call. Thank you to Weldon for hitting us up. I think that was a good discussion. And one, I'm surprised. It's funny when Weldon calls in and says, I think C9's decision to use the bench was a good one. The chat gets all thoughtful and quiet and just listens. But if that had been some guy named Joe from West Texas who's like, yeah, I think everybody would have been like, hang up. The callers tonight. Why does Mark pick these people? I'll call in.
To be fair to Twitch chat, I bet Joe from Texas would not be as eloquent or as storied of a person in the scene as Weldon, who has a fair amount of experience and is relatively eloquent.
Yeah. Well, Joe wouldn't be like, I'm in a gym in Finland right now. I was in the middle of my yoga meditation.
Let me tell you about C9!
Okay. What else? We got Boba Cola gifted a sub to Alir. I haven't seen Alir for a while. Thank you. It's Volks resub for 11 months. Says Travis that Jack is fire. It's Volks might be on the lead there. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary. Jinja say what subbed. Daniel N92 resubbed says love it. Gonna watch the crap out of it. Also everyone tweet to get Travis on the dive. That's not my campaign I'm starting. That's Daniel N92. Rockin' Rodney, Kitsune Music, and Racin' Randy 83X. You guys are coordinating. We got Rockin' Rodney and Racin' Randy all subbed. Thank you so much for your subs. I see Carlos is on the show. I see Carlos. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Chico, California.
From Chico, California. Not too far away. Turn you up a little bit.
No, it's like 10 hours away from Southern California. About like 3 hours away from Sacramento. So, yeah.
Wait, you said 10 hours away from Southern California?
Yeah, California's big, Travis.
Oh, I thought Chico was in Southern California, and I live in here.
Chico is Northern California. Northern California.
Oh, I think I was thinking of Chino. Okay, whatever. What do you got for us?
So I want to talk about how it feels like esports as a whole, at least in esports that do use this as a practice method, is scrimming, and how I think that scrimming is kind of probably the bad way to go about practicing esports. I come from a traditional sports background. I played a lot of soccer growing up, some football here and there, but it feels like this constant need to be scrimming your opponents that you play in your league all the time almost feels counterproductive as a whole to the idea of getting better as a team, as individual players, if that makes sense.
So what would you substitute scrims for?
And see, that's kind of why I wanted to ask, like, Mark, who actually has coaching experience, this whole idea where it feels like, obviously you can't really like institute drills into esports, where you can't really just make someone sit there and CS for like an hour and then everything's totally going to be fine and dandy. But it feels like instead of having scrims where you're obviously trying to get the perfect situation made so you can practice this very specific setup in leagues, example, like, oh, a very specific Baron situation at like 45 minutes or something. And obviously we hear all this stuff about people wanting to remake their scrims because they got a bad start or something. Maybe just implementing smarter practice methods, something like practicing lane matchups against your academy mirror, essentially. So like the top laner from academy, if the top laner from the main roster actually going at it for an hour or two and really talking about what it is that makes this matchup different or makes it so it's so favored in one character versus the other.
So I would say a lot of like what you're suggesting is done by a lot of people. Like when I was still coaching, tried to implement a lot of that. Like we tried to really make like a 10-man feeling roster where like we scrimmed the academy team a fair amount and things like that. I know a lot of pro players, even against other pro players, will do like matchup practice. And so like I think a lot of those ideas have been implemented. I think one of the problems that people run into is that like League is such a variable game in a sense. Like there's so much at play that if someone else that you're playing against is doing the wrong thing, you will never learn that you too are doing the wrong thing. And so that's why like quality scrim opponents is so highly valued. That's why people don't want to scrim their academy teams. That's why people don't want to scrim low tier LCS teams. Because if I'm just a better individual player than you, or our jungler works with our bot lane better than yours, then like we just always crush you with this one strategy or something, and we don't really learn what you really need to get better. And so that's why so many people are understandably afraid of doing like heavy in-houses with an academy team, because your academy team, even the best academy team, which is like Cloud9, some of their players are playing on what was formerly the 10th place LCS team. And I think there's always that kind of large gap between academy and LCS.
Okay, yeah, and I understand that. I mean, I kind of figured that this was kind of something that was being implemented now at least, but it still feels like even this whole scrim culture where people talk about, oh, we scrimmed this team and we did pretty good, but yet we don't know why weren't able to transfer that. And I mean, this has been going on since like season 2, season 3. People saying that, oh, people don't take scrim seriously, people are just messing around and all that fun stuff. So I guess it almost goes back to this idea of, is it just NA's practice culture that isn't really taking scrim seriously and taking practice as a whole seriously, or is this also just kind of I don't know, just indicative of NA as a whole when it comes to this?
It's probably a combination of a lot of things. I'm not sure it's like a one size fits all like
of course, yeah,
kind of thing, because I think some like just team approaches to like how they want to improve it might be problematic. I think sometimes it's players are problematic, sometimes it's like the org is not doing things correctly. So I think it can be a lot of different things.
And it's not like, I also think that it's not just like all NA teams don't take scrim seriously, because I think that it's not like an NA thing, it's like a team to team thing. There are teams in other regions and in other games like that just have motivation issues with scrims. It's completely dependent on the culture of the team. And I've known a lot of teams on a lot of different games, not just in North America, that like historically they don't try super hard in scrims, or like, certain players have motivation issues if certain things happen in the game, like, oh, this situation happens, I can't play the rest of the game, it's not serious, blah, blah, whatever. And it doesn't necessarily be indicative or translate to how they do in tournaments or on stage. The important thing is that, yeah, you're getting what your team needs to succeed. Certain teams really want to be like really focused and need to get a lot of this shit from scrims to learn and improve, and some teams just like really want to play loose, and it allows them to play better as players on stage. And like I've seen especially a lot of like individually talented teams be set up that way, where they're super great players, they like get it, they're really on like the good parts of their career, and they just need to go into games loose on stage so that they can play their best and not like overthink things. I think too, to get back to your original point, one of the really big differences why we see scrims, and Mark touched on this a little bit, as so much of a greater practice tool than in comparison to traditional sports, is the rules of the game. Rules in esports titles change all the frickin' time. And as like meta changes and picks change, it's super important to have that scrim time for synergy as those changes happen. Whereas like, especially in more like individual elements of the game focused sports like baseball and football, yeah, obviously baseball teams don't need to ever play their like scrimmages against other teams, because really it's just a performance of individual activities that coincides in a thing. At football, a lot of the same stuff. basketball probably and soccer probably have more scrimmaging as a part of their regular practice than those other two sports that I mentioned. I would believe. And yeah, and esports is always going to be that way. So I think there will always be that need for practice.
I will say, I think one of the most interesting times, and someone else in chat was referencing it, was like the Samsung Blue, Samsung White days in season 4, because that was like my first year in coaching and analyst work, and they were by far like the best org in that sense in that season. And so like I read as much as I could about their interviews and stuff, and they had a lot of really interesting policies. Like I think to what you said way back, I see Carlos, was like almost like an over fixation on scrims and like scrim results and things like that, because Samsung Blue and Samsung White would scrim internally 1 block a day, and that was it. And I think it was Samsung White would scrim externally sometimes to like get exposed to other things, and like if you wanted to scrim them, you could only, I think it was Samsung White. Either way, only one of the two teams scrimmed externally, and then the rest of the time was just like balls to the wall solo queue time. And even that wasn't enforced by the coach directly, but it was like a team culture thing. And like the coach said, like, yeah, if we feel like you're not putting in enough work, we'll say something. But it sounds like they never had to, because all the players were just so like, they played insane hours. Like that was like Acorn was like, yeah, I sleep 4 hours a night or something crazy like that. And so it was a really weird culture where they mostly scrimmed internally, and they mostly actually just played solo queue. And that was how they like were so good, was they just put in the insane hours. And I thought that was really interesting. And it's just something that it would be nice to see if people could replicate it again. But then I think that was the last season that you had sister teams. And so ever since then, you've never had two teams with similar levels of talent within an organization.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting topic. It's sort of, and I think it's one of those things where like everybody, I like the fact that you bring it up, because I think everyone's just sort of takes the system for granted, and there's probably a better way. We've only been doing this for a couple years now, several years, I guess, but there's probably, you know, it's probably a good idea to sort of challenge the foundations of how these things operate. So,
and I feel like that's kind of why I asked the question to begin with, was just this whole like esports is still fairly young, that's still malleable, that you could still try to add some sort of new culture in there. But of course, with the way things are at the moment, it feels like so much of it falls on just organizational culture as opposed to actually the practicing that's going on behind it.
Yep. Thank you so much, IC Carlos, for the call.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
All right, we got about 3 more callers to go, winding out the night. Damn it, Bear subbed. Bloodspoint sent $5. Do pros ever use all chat during LCS? I don't know. I wish I could tell you, but thank you for the $5.
Can I interject based off of that donation real quick? So something that has recently happened in Dota that has been great is that as a part of their compendium, they added these chat wheel elements that and a tipping system. So like in Dota, like you have level points or whatever to like get your battle pass, very similar to Fortnite, right? And you can tip other players in the game, including up on the opposing team. So what happens a lot of time now in professional games is like 4 guys will gank somebody, kill him, and then 4 people will tip him, and it's like it shows up on broadcast, so it's the most BM thing, but like I don't know, it's been really funny to watch and see adopted by the culture. I think they should do that shit in League. It'd be hilarious.
That is pretty good. Speaking of that, I think Navi, I pulled you. Marcus probably.
Okay, I was confused when I heard his topic. There we go.
Navi, where are you calling from?
I'm from New Zealand.
From New Zealand, okay. Hey, I pulled an international caller. Look at me. Navi, what do you want to talk about? Because I think, well, first off, thank you for being a Twitch sub. Secondly, by the way, is it pronounced Navi?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You say sure at the end, which makes me think it's not pronounced.
I've heard a lot of different ways it's pronounced, but Navi's fine. So.
Okay, well, it's esports.
How do you pronounce it?
I say Navi.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Don't sure me if that's the way you pronounce it. What do you want to talk about? I can already tell Kelby's going to be excited about this.
So I wanted to talk about how we as a community are pretty underserved when it comes to being able to support the broadcast and the league as a whole. Because after watching the Overwatch League finals this week, and even the PUBG Invitational, they monetize their streams such a better way than Riot has. And I feel like this year was really important to nail, because League's not going to be relevant forever, and every year counts for like everyone that's invested in the scene. And right now, the only way to support the league is to support the teams directly by paying like $80 for a shitty hoodie, and then paying $20 shipping for it to ship to my shitty little island, which is just.
Is this
too much,
100T?
right?
This sounds like 100T.
Nowadays, you can order a Jersey Mike's with promo code JMNL.
See, I don't have Jersey Mike's in New Zealand.
Yeah,
so,
he doesn't.
Wait. Which team was it? Which team were you paying $20 shipping for your $80 hoodie?
$20 shipping I had to pay from Immortals when they did the World's jersey, and TSM was $20 shipping. So I'm guessing everyone's the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get to something in New Zealand. I can.
Yeah, and like looking at the Overwatch League channel right now, they have this amazing team leaderboards thing where chat actually uses bits and shares.
Mm-hmm.
And Dallas Fuel's at the top, which used to be Team Envy. And if that's 1 cent per bit, they've got over $125,000 in 7 months.
Yeah.
And the whole leaderboard, if we add it all up, they have around 980,000 US dollars, which is about $82,000 split amongst all the teams. So if even at a bare minimum, right, just put in a sub button where I could spam like the flame emote, win 100 CS lead on someone, you know, something like that. I just want Riot to put something in to hold us over while they work on their BAM tick deal or whatever fell through, and just figure something out for me, you know, like.
He doesn't know.
I know, I'm saying because that fell out.
He said because it fell through. He knows.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying, like, the PUBG Invitational even, they had this Twitch plugin where you would predict which team won. And I'm saying if you beat the analyst desk predictions, right, you can get like a hex tick box or hex tick key or something, increase viewership.
Well, that would be easy. I don't know if you've been keeping track of these analyst predictions, but the analysts are pretty shit right now.
People are pretty shit right now too, for the most part. Like, usually, like, so last split we were like around 60%, and people would tweet at me and they'd be like, "Look, I'm at like 70% or something," because someone's always going to do better than you. There's 100,000 people watching. But this split, like, no one is tweeting at me, and the people who are also like just under 50%.
All right, Mark. Look, it's I get it.
I'm just saying, like,
sensitive subject. Sorry, shouldn't have brought it up. We're talking about something else.
So Navi,
Didn't mean to hurt
what
your
would
feelings.
you like? What would you like to see? Specifically, I want to know specifically what you as a fan want to see.
Less than $20 shipping
really
for
happy
hoodies.
with even just Twitch emotes and a sub button.
Okay.
But I'd really like them to tie the end game stuff. Like Overwatch has, look here, it says they have over 13 emotes. You can get like 14 skins, all this stuff without even the All Access Pass, right? And then with the All Access Pass, you get 15 Overwatch skins, a spray, and all this. So I would like to see skins and emotes in game, but right now, even on Twitch, if they just did something or made some sort of a deal with them, I would love that. You know.
Here, I will say this right now, Navi. I will say this publicly. If Riot wants to use my face as an emote, they can do that, and they don't even have to give me a cut of it. All right. I want to support NALCS, so I will donate my face to the Twitch emote system for the LCS channel. Okay, so that just know that I'm pitching in.
Guys, I will tie my brand to the LCS for free.
I mean, Mark, you tied your brand to the LCS, and you demand they pay you. So I mean, that's mocking me, but I'm out here. I'm offering something. All right, you want something of that return.
People, okay, would you put in 35 hours a week for free for them?
My face is worth at least 35 hours. So I think we're right there, right, Kelby?
Yeah. So Navi, I gotta say, I agree with you entirely. It is very confusing to me personally that Riot has been at the forefront or at least was at the forefront and innovating for esports for such a long period. And then in the one area where you'd think it would matter, perhaps even the most, the monetization of this product that you've invested so much time and money to over your company's history, that you just don't care. You don't seem to care about doing anything with integrating the experience as a fan back into being a player. Like, it is really so sad that, like, games like Halo Halo 5, which is getting like peak concurrent viewership of 10,000 like people on their stream. Their active player base for that game now is probably like less than 100,000 uniques a month or some shit. They have more in-game integration and more integration into their player base and what they can receive on their broadcast than League of Legends does. It's like they're not doing anything. Nothing like you've outlined. It's so sad, especially when their player base is shrinking like it has, and you now have Overwatch League coming out and kicking your ass in every single department when you had all of the opportunities that they had and passed on them and did alternative things that failed, and now you don't have any replacement or plan for it. What the fuck are you doing, man? Like, you're such a joke in this area, and we've talked about it for so long, and you don't change anything. When do you start to care? When do you address any of this? I don't know. Holy shit, dude.
Did that feel good to let out, Kelby?
That's me going way short. Travis knows of what I would talk about off of a public thing that can be recorded and clipped and shit.
They just need to respect the fact that it's a digital space and they have digital viewers from all over the world, and you just have to service them somehow. Just give us something.
I think one of the I don't want to say fundamental problems at Riot, because I don't think I'm actually in a position to say this, but I'll probably say something close to it anyways. I think one of the biggest problems is, like, I feel like Riot sees always the downsides of anything with like a giant magnifying glass, and the upsides is like, meh, whatever. So like, when they see that this could be misconstrued as trying to pump viewership through artificial means or something, or, you know, that's a ploy to, like, you know, generate false hype or whatever, like the compendium, like, oh yeah, they're just taking all their fans' money or something. You know, like, I'm not saying this is what they've actually said, but like, it does feel like anytime that these other solutions and other like money-making things are presented, people like, I hear so many of the bad reasons for it as opposed to the good ones. Like you're saying, Navi, that like, as a fan, I would love to be able to show my support.
Yeah. And I would be totally fine with that if there was literally anything that they provided as an alternative. Maybe they tried with the BAMTech deal, but we don't know, and they have nothing to show for it.
Yeah, that is my biggest thing, is that like I can only assume that they put so much into that deal, because if you go back and you look at the interview, they talk so much about what they were going to be able to achieve with it that they must have just thought, like, we're not going to do this with Twitch or YouTube or whatever. It's all going to be in the system. And that is why, like, at the time, this is one of the frustrations I had, is like, I did that video. The main point of feedback I got from everybody, not just like the Reddit and community, which ultimately, like, they didn't care because they'd forgotten it was the thing in the first place, but also from the industry in general, was like, well, you know, like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, they can do something else. But it's just hard whenever, like, it feels like there are two options here. Either you just didn't care about any of these really cool monetization opportunities that allow your fans to engage with your broadcast in a unique way, show their support, whatever. Or you do care, but you were going to put it all on the BAMTech thing. And so I'm much more likely, like, there's people in this pet chat right now who say things like, Riot doesn't care, or their esports department doesn't care. That, I think that couldn't be further from the truth. They care about esports tremendously, and I know people over there that kill themselves trying to make sure that the stuff works out great. They suck in certain areas. Like, they suck in world states, as an example. They suck in monetization. They suck in a lot of different areas, but I know that they care. But so I'm much more likely to think that it all went into the BAMTech thing and that failed. The problem is like, now they need to fix it. They got to fix it, because I could not agree with you more. Like, they were a front runner. Think about it this way: when LCS came out, they were first in this industry. They were first in so many different ways across the board, right? Like, nobody had done a league like this. Like the giving salary to players. Like, it's just, there were so many things that they did that were first. Having all the players live in the same area. And I think now, like they are not innovating in the way that they did before, and that now you see other leagues and other esports groups doing a lot in the space, which is great. It is great to see other people stepping up to the plate. What is not great is to see distinct areas in which Riot is falling behind, like this one.
And the final thing I'll say is, or at least for me, all good things come to an end in some regard, right? So like the idea that Riot wasn't going to stay number one, I think a lot of people knew that that wasn't going to be the case, and I don't think it's always fair to like needle dick someone for like something that was always going to happen for like every little thing that they could have done better. But like I think in this instance there are a number of big things they could have done better.
I just think it's time they should just just copy Overwatch League at this point, right? I think what have you got to lose?
I mean,
nobody's gonna complain about that shit.
Yeah, the team owners especially won't. They'll fucking love it.
Oof. That's anyways.
Hey, Navi, thank you so much for calling in. We do have two more call. Oh, we only have one more. One of them dropped out, I guess.
Sure.
We've got another caller to go, and we're running low on time. So thank you so much for your call, though. I think it's a good topic, and I appreciate that you brought it up. And whoever pulled you into the waiting room was a genius for doing that. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for me.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thanks, dude.
See
ya. One last caller to go. Everybody in chat thinking like, "Oh no," freaking out. Look, we just feel passionately about that thing. Let's see. We've got.
Okay, hi.
Oh, okay, hi. How are you? Welcome to the channel. Normally I go through and I read a couple subs, but sounds like you're ready. Your name is Vireto Evigadin. Is that pronounced right?
It's supposed to be Japanese. It's an anime title.
Anime title. Can you pronounce it for me?
Well, the English name is Violet Evergarden. Let's just go with
Violet Evergarden.
Violet.
Okay.
Violet Evergarden.
Oh, Violet Evergarden. Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Where are you calling from, Violet Evergarden?
I live near SF.
Near SF. Okay,
Hey!
so Bay Area.
Where are you at in the Bay Area?
As Millbrae.
Millbrae. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that's a BART stop.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So do you guys think like compared to other regions, NA has like a communication issue? Because like so this thing like that happened like recently like made me think was like I was watching LPL and then like they gave Doing an interview in Chinese and then like he speaks really fluent Chinese to the point where he forgot some Korean. And it made me think like because like I've seen like NA interviews in the past and then Korean players like Impact for like their English like let's just be honest like isn't like very ideal. And then I looked at like EU, all the top teams have like all Europeans, they have like no Koreans, and of course they speak English, and Korea of course speaks Korean, and in LPL all the top teams they have like Koreans who are really fluent in Chinese, and RNG for all intents and purposes it's all Chinese, like and for the Koreans like Rookie, Scout, they all speak like really fluent Chinese, even the not so fluent ones like the Shy, they still communicate like pretty well in Chinese. So it made me wonder if like NA is like suffering like a bit in terms of performance because of this.
You think it's communication issues, and you're saying that the players that have come over here that don't speak English fluently, they're not learning it fast enough to allow for the communication to flow freely.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
and,
I think.
Sorry. Also, like among like coaching stuff too, because like RNG has two Korean coaches, but like Hart and Kazman, and they both speak decently well Chinese.
Yeah, I think that historically, like the top teams from NA going to Worlds have had all native English speakers at every single role. TSM the past 2 years and Cloud9 the year before that.
Kelby, we sent an entirely Chinese-speaking team to Worlds.
I think that's more actually proves Kelby's point.
Are you
of what
talking
he was
about
trying-
LMQ?
Yeah.
That also proves my point as well. But that's way long ago. I'm talking about the last 3 years.
C9
Yes.
with Impact. Impact speaks Korean.
So that's one off. I don't think communication is probably the issue.
Yeah,
I think it's that NA sucks.
Yeah. So, but like it's easy to say NA sucks, but is there a possibility that this is happening? I kind of disagree, Violet Evergarden, because I think one thing is that we've seen a lot of the players in North America start to pick up English pretty quickly over time. Huni admittedly was in Europe for a while, but he was in like Germany. His English great, Rainover great. Like a lot of the players over here, actually hilariously, Seraph when he came to CLG had awful English, and I don't know if Kelby did nothing to help him with it or whatever. But after he left CLG, he learned English and actually is super fluent in it. I mean, obviously he's not competing anymore, but like I think we have seen a lot of examples where players that came over here did not know English at first know it really well. One thing to mention, by the way, is that like on the Impact thing, his teammates can all understand him very well. He just has like a very unique accent and way of speaking, which seems to be heavily influenced from Sneaky's memeing and Twitch chat. And so like his teammates can all understand him very well. It's just that, yeah, in interviews or whatever, it's harder for a lot of the broader audience to understand him.
Yeah, so I think what we'd all say is like, yes, having non-native English speakers is worse than having native English speakers, but in comparison to the other problems that there are in NA, it's a pretty minimal problem. And if you're concerned about it being a big problem, what you need to weigh it against is if these Korean imports who don't speak the language well cause a bigger drag on the team's performance than the worse native speaking NA player who speaks English well. And I think you'll find that that's probably not the case, and that these imported Korean players are much better. And if you didn't have them, the scene would be arguably even worse.
Do you have any other thoughts, Violet Evergarden?
So right now it's not a problem, but do you think it might become like a problem in the future? Because obviously NA isn't producing talent fast enough, so obviously they're gonna import like more and more players.
Kelby, this is a NA importing players topic. You want to give your spiel? You got some grandstand to take here?
Are you talking about me having Riot change the rules?
No. I just mean.
Oh, I thought that's what you were going for.
No, I was not going for that. I just meant you usually go on a rant about how it's fine. We're creating like an ecosystem. Regardless, I'll just say this. Like, I think what's interesting is you can meme about it, but I think we are developing pretty good infrastructure for importing players that don't speak English. We are importing a lot of European players who do speak English. How long before we get some, perks over here? All those guys, they loved North LA and Rift Rivals. They were all talking about it.
Yeah, all those European imports that came over and ended up on Meh teams are loving it.
Optic looks great. Power Evil's having a great time.
I hope Optic and Clutch turn around so Febby and PoE have a great time in NA.
Yeah, and Febevin made top 4. He got to go play on stage in Miami last time.
Yeah, now he's dead last.
Yeah, well, so is some other big teams are close to.
I mean, actually, never mind. Go ahead.
But anyway, so like one interesting thing, by the way, I don't know if you knew this, Violet Evergarden. There's a woman named Sophie who is a Korean English teacher. I think she was a professor at USC. I don't know if she still is, but she works with like almost all, I believe, of the Korean players now that are over here. Like teaches them. She has like a Twitter, I forget what it is, but like we are developing infrastructure for the players that come over here that don't speak English to level that up. And so I don't think it's becoming an issue. I think actually it might be becoming less of an issue. And that in the past, I remember there were a lot of times where you would just have a player that no one could understand, and you'd hear kind of at the end of the split after the team got relegated, like, hey, we were never able to have any conversations in game because it just didn't work. But I think it's actually getting better.
So I guess it all boils down to NA sucking then.
Yes, it does. Exactly. That's what it all boils down to at the end of all these concerns. Thank you so much, Violet Evergarden, for the call, and I hope you enjoy some new Crunchyroll videos soon.
Violet Evergarden's on Netflix.
Oh, well, I mean, there's other anime on Crunchy. I'm trying to.
Is it good?
Hello, fellow weebs.
Well, I really liked it.
You really liked it? Did you like it, Mark?
I haven't watched it. It's been on my to-watch list for a while.
Okay. What is it about, Violet Evergarden?
It's about basically like this girl like she used to be in the army and she has like no feelings, learning like what is love.
Oh, very good. Yeah, well, I asked myself that question. Thank you so much, Violet Evergarden, for your time on the show. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Are we doing this Anero thing, Mark?
I don't know if you want to save it and just make him be our guest and then do a whole episode about it.
I just feel like we're beating a dead horse by having like a giant episode.
Oh, I shouldn't say. I didn't mean do a whole episode about that topic. I meant do a whole episode with Anero.
Oh, okay. Well, he was on just so recently.
You keep saying that, but hasn't it been like 2 months? Like,
no, he was on. I think he was on the show before.
I'm gonna
like
look it
2
up
weeks
right
ago
now.
or something.
What? No way.
I think he was on 35. No, that was Kelby.
Yeah, we had like
no, he was
3
on,
players.
he was on episode 33, and we're on episode 38. So it's been 5 weeks.
It's been like 6 weeks. I'm fine having a repeat guest who is a former coach.
Anero's not even in the Discord. So all these people spamming get Anero on. He's not even in the Discord.
He said in Twitch chat, he was like, "Can I come in and talk about this NA problem?"
But then he didn't
thing?
get in Discord. So did he ever really want on, or did he just want the chat to all freak out?
He just wanted people to talk about him.
Yeah.
Fucking typical Anero. We can talk more about it next week if we can't find someone cooler than Anero. I guess we can use him.
I mean, there's Kelby. You know,
Kelby's pretty funny. I like Kelby.
He's kind of out of it right now. I think he's falling asleep.
Anyways, all I'm saying is,
you guys were talking about Nero. I was watching the Violet Evergarden trailer, dude.
The trailer on that thing looks fucking great, by the way. That is some top tier animation.
But this is a dub trailer, not a sub trailer. I want the sub trailer.
Anyways, I would be down to have an Arrow on again, especially since last time we had him, he was still on Echo Fox. And maybe we can ask him some stuff like, did you know a trade was coming? Or like that you guys wanted the trade, / like was up. Or we can just drag him on, Travis. There's no way I'd have something else I wanted to do tonight, and that's why I was trying to push this.
He has your status on the. He's got your power from the time you disconnected.
Oh,
yeah, but I didn't move myself in. I'm on my phone, dude. I can't do that.
We don't know how he got in here. We're not sure.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Appreciate it.
And Arrow, what do you want to talk about?
You just opened up a 20-minute can of worms. Here we go.
I just want to talk about the NA problem because people keep calling in and like have different random excuses. Like, this is why NA sucks. NA sucks because like the region as a whole, with like everything we do in terms of infrastructure, is just straight trash. Like, organizations aren't really like very strict on actually making the infrastructure itself better, and there's just management that suck, coaches that suck, and that just makes a bad environment for players that are never going to get better because the infrastructure is just awful.
Can you give me specific examples? That's very general.
All right, so say like practice sucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like practice is obviously a problem, and people say practice is inefficient. Like, obviously practice is a source of the coaches for the most part, yeah? Like, if players are bad and are causing like the problems in practice, they should be getting benched, essentially, right? Like, if you're on any other team in the world, that's probably happening.
So you think that every NA team has players that are not efficiently using their practice time, and it's because the coaches aren't keeping the onus on them to be
not
good
that
with
in
their
particular.
time?
I'm
Okay.
saying that it's a combination of like all of these things. Like, if that's a problem, and say that like a coach has called out a player for this and it hasn't been fixed, then maybe it's a management problem. Maybe it's that the coach isn't calling it out, so then it's a coaching problem. And rather than just like calling out all these random things like, NA sucks for this, like, it's a combination of all these issues, and every team has a different combination of those issues. And for the most part, they generally don't get fixed, from my experience. From what I've heard from like talking with other people on teams, and then like other players voicing their experience with teams coming to new teams, right? Everyone has these types of issues, but you generally see like the same group of people kind of floating around esports everywhere. And it's like that in other regions as well. From working in Europe, you still have the same type of thing, but it's like that's the main issue. And I think it's definitely fair for players to call out like coaches and players for stuff like this, and it's something that should be fixed. But there's also like onus on management end too, and there's problems there as well. And it's something that's not really, I guess, explored or talked about. Like people in esports itself, like I'm sure you guys have heard coaches or players like complain about this type of thing, like just in like casual conversation, right? But people aren't really going to be too public about it because job security matters a lot, and no one really wants to like lose their job or like even risk it. So even people that are necessarily like worse at their job aren't really going to like invite people that might even replace them to a certain extent and like improve their infrastructure, because then they might lose out on their job, right? Because that person might just be better. And
You
that
want to hire somebody who's weaker than you to keep yourself secure.
So really quickly, one thing I just learned is that new Skype. We keep learning about new Skype. New Skype, when somebody puts something in chat, it shows up over their webcam image. So I don't know what Mark put in chat. I can't see chat, but some URL like pops up, grays out his screen, and like shows the URL.
Wait, but I'm still fine on Twitch. I'm looking at the Twitch thing.
No, it went away. It's gone. But you saw like the chat be like, "What the hell?" in NA production. It's because this is apparently a new feature of Skype we've just discovered.
My bad, dude.
If you type
I was
something
looking
there,
something for my spiel when I respond.
Oh yeah, it's I don't.
My bad, Travis.
I mean, no, it's not your fault. It's fucking Skype is like just they change and everything. It's so weird.
Anyways,
do you think that infrastructure is worse here than in Europe, and that's the disparity between our regions?
No, I think Europe has like some pretty shitty infrastructure too. But
so you say that Europe and NA both suck, because you just said NA sucks. To address what the callers, so you think it's Europe and NA suck because of this infrastructure, and it's better in Korea and China?
I think they suck because of like different issues with it, but there's like different cultural things that kind of lead to benefits for different people. Like Korean culture kind of has the whole aspect of they have like a natural respect for elders, and it's kind of expected in their society. So
yeah,
that's kind of something that's expected from them in practice as well. So it tends to exist to a certain extent, but they're also, their organizations seem to be better, at least from what I've noticed from the outside and like through like very small interactions with the teams themselves, seem to be better at actually enforcing those types of things and decisions teams make, which you can see with like subbing being a very regular thing.
Well,
and it's like,
do you think it's easier for somebody with good ideas to instill those ideas in a peer and coworker base that is more open to them because their culture dictates that you respect elders more?
I think it helps it to a certain extent, yeah. But I think it's something that can exist in NA like equally as easy. But it requires consistency with organizations. Like everyone has to be on the same page, and that requires you to build like a good infrastructure for that and like good business around a certain idea that you have, and have people that are all in alignment on wanting to do the same thing. And if you don't have that, and people don't have that inherent like respect from the culture, then you're not going to be able to build it like you'll have in a team environment. But it's definitely like fucking possible for sure. It's just people suck at getting respect as coaches, or people suck at maintaining respect because they're not consistently responding to problems the way they should.
But Korean and Chinese organizations are?
I think for the most part, at least seems like it. It seems that there's like a decent level of respect in terms of like Korean culture. I don't know too much about China, and I'm not going to pretend like I do because I don't do too much there, but I have like interacted with people on Korean teams, and the Korean players coming over all seem to have that same type of, at least like inherent respect. Like they kind of expect from everyone in the way that they interact with people. They respect the people that are in positions of power above them, or positions of authority, I mean.
Yeah,
but I don't think
NA
people are definitely bad at doing that. I haven't had really a problem with respect from North American players, but I know that it's something that exists.
Sure, I would just anyways, I'll let Mark respond.
Yeah, so this is actually more of like a sidestep. So I'd say you guys should finish your combo if there's anything else you want to say.
I was just gonna say, like, I think it definitely depends on the organization, and we definitely, I think, have seen teams that in different titles as well. Like, I don't know if this is just a League of Legends conversation where like the best infrastructure does not always produce the best result team, and even as such, like we've had rosters that have like I think not had these issues that you've talked about domestically, and just still like not done well on the international stage. I'm still personally more inclined to believe that like North America and Europe as regions are not inherently more incompetent at running esports teams than China and Korea. I think that, again, one of the contributing factors is, yes, it is much easier for a person who's perhaps wiser and more experienced and guided to be able to get buy-in and instill certain regiments and values within an organization if that base is much more open innately to receiving them.
Yeah, but I don't think it, on that point too, I don't really think that the fact that it's harder here is even like an excuse for NA. I think that as a coach, you should be able to get that type of respect anyways. And if you can't, you probably shouldn't be in a position to be coaching them too.
I believe over time that will be something that exists, but esports is still too young as a space for us to have developed premier coaching talent. So many of the greatest coaches in traditional sports and even other esports have been former professional players. And we don't have a lot of greats that have retired and are interested in that yet. I mean, we had Loco Doco, but that's Saint Vicious as well. But that's really about it.
I also say a lot of the all-time great players who retire and become coaches are not greatest coaches. Fucking
any players.
Fucking Jackson. Phil Jackson was not a amazing god tier player, but one of the most greatest coaches of all time. Bill Belichick.
I mean, he won a lot of rings when he was a player.
Yeah, but he wasn't this is the guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and Bill Belichick never played pro, and I don't think that matters as much. I think also the whole infrastructure thing. I do think there's problems in NA, but no one's worse than Origin, and they got to 2015 semis at Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that can help with the fact that their team player culture worked well, but
yeah,
that can happen. You can get the Worlds in your region, no problem. Obviously there's going to be a top team in your region, even if your infrastructure in your region sucks. There still has to be a number one team. It's just that you're never going to be able to reach the point that other regions are reaching, where these teams come in and they're just doing better as a team and performing better on the team play aspect of the game that has existed almost the exact same way forever, because people suck at building that because their infrastructure has different problems there that lead to bad practice environments, whether it's internally or practice environments with other teams. And I think that trying to use any of these excuses that people have used, like ping and shit like that, is just the biggest bullshit excuse. And
well, what
everyone
about
has to do the same things
player
from
base?
other regions.
All right, so if we're gonna get into player base, this is where I would love to hop in, because so far I don't actually disagree with anything in Arrow's saying. I'm just not sure that our infrastructure is substantial. And to be fair, we're not substantially worse than Europe in a lot of regards either. So I don't want to blow this too far out of proportion. But what I'd say is I linked a graphic to Skype, and if you can pull it up on stream, Travis, that'd be great. Are you able to?
Can you link it to me on Discord?
Yeah, I'll just put it in the pleb chat so people can see it too, and I'll put it on in Twitch chat, and hopefully you can pull it up. But this is the percentage of LoL players by region, roughly, based off some API that's probably full of errors and is not close to 100% accurate. But I think it at least paints an interesting picture about this. And so if you can't pull it up, basically it's percentage of LoL players by region, and it includes all the minor regions too for the most part. Doesn't include China, because China just dwarfs everyone. But NA is 10%, EU West is 25%, EU East is 14%, KR is 24%. And like I said, China's not on here. I think it would dwarf everyone else combined. So forget that for a moment. But you just see that NA is not competitive in terms of player base. It's just not compared to the other major regions. And you can talk about Taiwan and why is Taiwan good? And I think that's an interesting conversation. But what I'd say is anytime you're trying to like predict why some like area would be good, it's like basically going to come down to like how good you are, like how talented you are at that thing, and how hard you're working. And of course, like your environment is another one, but like if you are all roughly doing the same thing, everyone's roughly just scrimming or whatever it is, and everyone's environments are roughly the same, it's going to come down to how hard you work and how talented you are. And we do not have the talent pool to compete with anyone. And we try and supplant that with imports from other regions. But are we importing enough to be more talented than other regions? I would argue probably not. And then if you look at, are we working harder than other regions? Like, we definitely work really hard. And in no way am I going to say like NA doesn't play hard, but we're not working harder than Korea. I don't think there's ever been a time where like the entire region has worked as hard as the Korean region. Like the closest you hear is like Fnatic 2015, TSM 2016, maybe. Like those are times that we put in like quote unquote Herculean efforts, which I think based off what I know is just the base standard for Korea. And so if we're not the hardest working region and we're not the most talented region, like why would we expect to compete with these other regions that are? China's the most talented. Korea, just based off like play base, for every Dardoch we find, Korea finds 10. EU and Korea find 2. And so I would say like when I look at it this way, it's not even like why are we bad? It's like, well, why would we ever be good?
Well, I mean, you think you can't put like at least one team out there that's definitely going to compete really hard?
I think you
like,
should.
You just got to get like 5 good players, right? And it just seems like we can't really do that at all. And I think that should always be possible. Like, I don't know, man. If Brazilian teams are able to put out like one insanely good team in CS:GO, like that happened, and then just like win big major tournaments, feel like it's obviously like just one example, right? So it could just be a fucking outlier. But you know, NA should be able to do it, especially if we're just chucking money out like this. Realistically, should be able to do it if people are making smart decisions about team building and then having actual efficient practice.
Yeah, but, I'm not saying like by far like this is. I'm just saying like these are some. Yeah. I think it's like it's not negligible the fact that our player base is tiny, and like yes, you have Flash Wolves, and like and that's why I was saying that's why I would love to talk about them, because I think that's an interesting parallel.
We just definitely shouldn't expect to have like a lot of good teams. Like we shouldn't be expecting to put like 5 world-class teams out there, but we should.
Yeah, it's like why are we struggling to get out of groups? It's like that's why I think we're struggling to get out of groups more than anything. Is like why would we expect to consistently get out of groups versus China and Korea and even Europe, who has 2.5 times our player base, and that was a year ago. And but from all metrics, it's not getting better. So I think there's a lot of things at play, but I think that's those are 2 big ones to me. Is like when I just like look at like how good is this person ever going to become? It's like, well, how talented are they and how hard are they working at anything? And like I don't think we're hardest working or most talented, so I wouldn't expect us to be the best.
Yeah. And to be clear, Nero, I don't disagree with you at all that we can't do things better. I just don't necessarily agree that we're doing things so much worse that it's the number one reason why our region lags behind. I think it's more like what Mark was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it matters a lot.
I think what Nero's saying is still true. I don't think I disagree with anything he said. And like if we're gonna do well, like we need to find our advantage in this environment, like because it's not going to be the 2 things I just laid out, or maybe it will be working hard if the whole region goes nuts.
I mean, we're never going to do well. We've already covered this. It's not going to change for the things that you've already talked about. There's not some other secret sauce that is going to put North America or even Europe ahead and have us beat Korea. There are not esports that Korea loses when it cares a lot about the game. There hasn't been, and until something changes with China will be, I think, the first region that does it, because their player base is just so massive by contrast. It's not going to be us, and it's not going to be Europe.
But to Nero's point, like I think there will be CLGs and Gigabyte Marines and Flash Wolves type situations. CLG 2016 MSI specifically, where like there's no reason that we can't make a run. There's no reason we can't do Miracle on Ice. Where like when you look at what happened at the, for people who don't know what I'm referencing, 1980s Olympics, this U.S. team beat Russia in the Olympics and won the gold medal, and it was like the biggest upset ever, people say, in sports. And like if you look at what they did, if you watch the movie, they just put in like the most butt fucking insane hours, and they approached practice differently, and like their selection of the players that they took and all this stuff, and they were able to make it work. And I think that's like the situation we find ourselves in. NA is not like, why is our region not as good, but it's like, how can we make those miracles happen?
I mean, that happened once in how many Olympics?
I mean, the environment changed too. And
But
stuff.
it can happen. It can happen like once a year. Like it does.
Yeah,
matter.
sure,
Like,
but
it is
we're
possible.
7 years in, not decades in.
Of course.
I mean,
and
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
expect it to change like fast. It's just like we should be aware that those types of issues will lead to it never changing. And
Sure.
if people are just happy, like, all right, we'll just do this.
Yeah.
And even though like our infrastructure might suck and practice sucks, let's not really work on fixing it because fuck it, we'll never be a good team. Then like
I
it's
mean,
just
the
stuck like
teams
that
are
forever.
definitely working on fixing it, though. It's not like they haven't gotten so much better over time. Do you think that they aren't trying to make themselves better from an infrastructure perspective and putting more investment and resources and being harder on themselves as far as the value that they can provide to players and pushing
No, I think
themselves?
for sure that they're trying to a certain extent, but I know that some also aren't trying and aren't necessarily hitting the right areas.
Well, yeah, well, okay, not everybody's Team Snickers. We got some TLs out there, too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I understand that orgs have like different views towards what they're approaching too, and some don't want to necessarily be the best. And if that's their business approach, you have to respect it. But
I'm
there
not
are
running a
definitely
team
teams
anymore.
not happy with it.
It's not just a popularity-only contest. You're fine. These guys actually want to win. Except for TSM, who's just focused on Fortnite.
Yeah.
Just gonna let that
Too
one
real?
sit for a second.
Too real?
No,
All right.
I just didn't have anything else because like I think
said yeah.
I mean, like I think I agree with Anero. Like, there's not enough being done in the North American scene to offset the disadvantages that I see to like consistently put out a great team or something. And so like I want us to be more aggressive about trying to improve and like being more innovative. Like, as much as I was joking about how like you can't just say be innovative and not have real suggestions, but like I want our region to do the things that Aneros are talking about for the things that I said.
Rover Chidori says, can we please get a Snickers emote? Kelby, when our friends tell you that you are responsible for that sponsorship getting fulfilled, I want you to think of the
all the
fact
credit.
that we've now got people in the Twitch chat asking for Snickers emotes because of... All right. Anero, thank you so much for coming in.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Yeah, thanks, dude. It was a good talking.
I will see you guys on the next one.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
See you.
By the way, earlier Anero was saying that he was in the shower naked listening to the show. He said that in Twitch chat because people are like, you should call in. And he's like, I'm in the shower and I don't have clothes on. I can't really call in right now.
So when people say like, I'm a big fan, like I wonder if they're a Anero level big fan.
Yeah, Anero might be the biggest Hotline League fan there is. Mark, you got any shout-outs, plugs, anything you want to throw out there?
So I'm at the part in Octopath Traveler where everyone gets together and you do like the final like mission or something. So I'm excited to see where that goes. Other than that, I got an offline TV video coming out this week. It should be pretty hype. And that's it.
What are your thoughts on the game different than? Did you see Donkey's review?
No, I didn't know he reviewed it. How long is it?
It's not very long. It's like 4 minutes, maybe 4.5 minutes.
What was his general take on it? I'm probably everyone I've talked to basically has the same general take.
He's admittedly not a big JRPG fan, but he has a lot of issues with like the fact that I guess you fight like a ton of level 1 mobs and it takes too long to do like that shit, and also like a lot of the dialogue and storyline just is really, really bad.
Yeah, it's like an objectively, I would say, as objectively as you can with writing, an objectively poorly written game.
Okay.
And you do literally 8 origin stories in a row to start the game out, and like all of that is just fucking terrible. And I'm like 60 hours in, and like I have enjoyed a handful, like I could count on probably one hand, like the amount of times I enjoyed what the story was putting in front of me.
Gotcha. Rough.
But I've played it a lot, and I really enjoy like the combat. It's exactly like what you want. It's not exactly what I want. I wanted more secondary classes. It's like I'd give it like a 6.5 or a 7.
Kelby, how is your Tretch campaign going?
It's going pretty good. We've started the snowball for real now.
So for
I'm
context,
fucking the high elves.
So for context, okay, we don't need to be so explicit. For context, we have a good friend who's a streamer who I will probably host at the end of this name, Fenron Jenkins, who's a Total War Warhammer 2 streamer. Kelby found this guy because Kelby got into Total War Warhammer 2, just like went off the grid essentially. Like all our friends, we want to play games. Hey Kelby, like there were literally, he did not. To be clear, last week, and definitely was a great guest. I'm happy to have him on, but I enjoy having Kelby on a lot. He brings a lot of energy to the show. I asked him, can you come on the show? He said, no, I'm busy playing Total War Warhammer 2. He frequently just like shuts everything off because of this, and it was really bad for a while. I think he's stabilized a little bit and has figured out how to like, but let's just say if you told me he wasn't at Twitch anymore because of Total War Warhammer 2, I would not be surprised. And then essentially that's what he told us at the start. Anyway, Kelby found this guy named Fenron Jenkins, who's like one of the best dudes ever. He's got super educational content. He talks about Total War Warhammer 2, streams it, etc. And then I guess what happened, Fenron was teasing you, saying like you couldn't do Tretch on Legendary, who's one of the lords you can play.
I asked a couple times what the next campaign I should do is, and both times said like, what do you think about doing Tretch? And he's like, if you haven't played Skaven, he's really tough, man. I wouldn't do Tretch if I were you.
Yeah. And he was right, to be clear, because you hated your life while you were beginning that campaign.
I'm on my 9th attempt.
Okay. All right. And things are moving. But so in other words, like maybe a different Skaven Lord would have been a better option.
I probably put about 25 hours into the 8 other attempts prior to being able to get to this point in this attempt.
Yeah.
Has anyone played 9 Parchments?
Mm-mm.
It looks like a Magicka type game where there's like a bunch of like co-op spells and shit, and you combine what the spells do.
I'm not.
Okay, how is that relevant to this conversation?
I just saw something about it. I just wondered if anyone played it.
I mean, we were kind of bullshitting at the end here. How does Total War Warhammer 2 Tretch have anything to do with Hotline League? Anyway,
you brought it up.
So I just for context on why we talk about this game so much on the show now, I did a deal with Fenron because I really like to stream, but never literally understood anything that was happening on the stream. And because he's so educational, we said we would co-stream one night, and he would teach me how to play. And so we did that for about 2 hours or so. And then I was like, okay, thanks, dude. And then the next day, I woke up and just opened up Total War Warhammer 2. And it's pretty much the only thing I do with my free time these days. It is a very addicting game. And I was thrilled when I was listening to the Mark Merrill podcast, and he was talking about how that's one of the games that he plays. He says he plays a ton of it. So, yeah, I'll probably get into WoW. Somebody says, Us Undone says, surprised by no WoW. I'm sure that that'll hit me soon, but Ark is Offline not doing their Mafia stream tonight? Because normally you're like, all right, guys, last caller, we gotta...
What? That's happened once.
You guys do Mafia streams?
Yeah, we have 3 Mafia videos on our YouTube channel. You should check them out, dude.
Oh, I like Mafia. But if it's not a stream, like, I don't know about... Is it the entire cut, or is it edited?
It's edited to get rid of, like, the boring parts where we're, like, talking in circles and stuff. So they're all, like,
But
15.
you gotta have that in there. It's important, man.
Well, then check out the full streamed ones on people's YouTube channel or on Twitch channels.
Yeah, I need to.
My shoutouts plugs here at the end. So I know we're way over time. The Omen GG Good Game Well Played comes out on Wednesday. The show that I'm doing with them in Biofrost. You guys might have seen the trailer earlier if you were around at the beginning of the show. Please check it out. Please help spread the word. Really want to prove that you can have a lot of stuff done on just around one person. Secondly, tomorrow I am filming the second set of interviews for a show that I am doing that's unannounced, but I love just talking about stuff that's unannounced that will hopefully debut next week. And one of the interviews I did is a top 10 interview I've done in my career. For me personally, one of my favorites. So it's a 8-episode series. I'm going to be announcing it in the next week or so, and hopefully the first episode will debut next week. But I'm really excited about this content. I think it's really good. Other than that, thanks everyone for sticking around and for watching the show. It's great to have Kelby here. Great to have Mark, I guess. And that's the show. Episode 38 is in the can.